Up on the stage, a priest steps forward and tells everyone about an important ritual. It's meant for all the 16-year-olds, giving them the chance to become knights. If they pass, they'll be able to stand up and battle against the forces everyone's been worried about. He had this weird expression like he wasn't sure what he was doing. Out of nowhere, he started calling for everyone to give the goddess some respect. He keeps his hands up, still hyped and showing his excitement. The crowd gets louder, cheering for the goddess just like the priest on stage. Right in the middle of the crowd, a girl spots the main guy dozing off while standing. She watches him, clearly bothered by how he's just spacing out like that. His friends glance over at him and can't believe he's actually dozing off, mouth hanging open, right when everyone's supposed to be paying attention. They're annoyed, thinking this is the worst possible time for him to be caught napping. In his dream, the boy finds himself wrapped up in a warm hug from a woman with pink hair. She's really pretty, and everything about the moment feels soft and unreal, like he's floating somewhere between sleep and waking up. She points out that the guy has always been a really devoted knight, always sticking to his duties. Because of how much effort he puts in, she decides he should get a reward. He wakes up and finds the goddess sitting right there on his lap. It takes him a second to realize what's going on. She looks amazing, almost unreal. Right then, he knows she's about to reward him for something, and his heart starts pounding. The goddess looked at him, and he couldn't help but stare back. He was totally caught off guard by how beautiful she was. When she wanted to know if he liked her, he just nodded, unable to hide how taken he was. It was pretty obvious he was drawn in, almost like he forgot about everything else for a second. His face gets really red as he admits to her that he likes her a lot. He wakes up totally out of it, and nearly ends up face to face with the priest standing on the stage. He wakes up and finds himself awkwardly close to the priest, pretty much halfway into a kiss. Confused and embarrassed, he quickly backs off, not sure how things ended up this weird. The man can't believe how the hero's acting, especially today when everyone else is being serious and respectful. It just throws him off, seeing someone not care at all when the moment clearly means a lot to everyone else. Right then, the man loses his patience and smacks the main guy across the face. The priest's voice echoed through the quiet room, snapping the hero out of sleep. Today was the big day, the day everyone had been talking about, the day of the divine summoning. Every month, all the 16-year-olds in town have to go through this summoning ritual. It's something everyone does when they hit that age, and it basically decides who gets to be a warrior. Back in the day, this place was known as, and it used to be a total paradise. Everything looked bright and full of life, like the kind of world you'd see in a game or on a postcard. One day, out of nowhere, a red sphere named crashed down from the sky. Everything changed after that. The impact wrecked the city and turned normal life upside down for everyone. Monsters known as started coming out from inside the sphere. Wherever they went, they wrecked everything. Nothing was safe from them. Things were looking really bad for humanity. Almost everyone thought it was over. But just then, a goddess showed up out of nowhere, coming down from the sky to give people a hand. Thanks to the goddess's power, humans finally had a chance to stand up for themselves. They fought back, doing whatever they could just to stay alive. For hundreds of years, every young person grew up dreaming about becoming a knight of the goddess. It was just what everyone wanted to do, like it was the ultimate goal everyone talked about. A young woman knelt on the platform, her head slightly bowed. The priest watched her, waiting to see if she'd sensed anything from the goddess. Everyone nearby seemed a little tense, curious about what she might say or do next. Her eyes light up. Suddenly, a golden light showed up and shaped itself into a spear right in the girl's hand. The priest looks pretty pleased that everything worked out. Without missing a beat, he gets ready for the next person in line, signaling them to step up for their turn at the summoning ritual. Not long after, another girl steps up and calls out a huge sword. Haired boy calls out a katana and it appears in his hand. One guy ends up with a frying pan in his hands, totally confused about why that's his weapon. A young girl stood there holding a rifle that looked way too big for her small hands. She stared at it, unsure what she was supposed to do next. The whole thing felt awkward and the weight of the weapon made her hesitate. He checks out the other guys showing off their weapons and starts to feel jealous. He tightens his fist, set on finding his own strength. He remembers how he just couldn't focus, his mind stuck on what went down the night before. Last night, the guy headed out to a bar. When he got there, he found his friends and grabbed a seat with them. They hung out for a while, just talking and having some beers together. At the bar, people are hanging out, laughing and tossing back their drinks. The place has that loud, friendly vibe where everyone's just there to have a good time. Glasses clink, music plays in the background, and nobody seems in a hurry to leave. The woman looked at him, checking if he was set for the ritual tomorrow. He could tell she wanted to make sure he was prepared. He just shrugs, acting like nothing can touch him now. In his mind, he's already unbeatable, and he's set on taking down anything evil that comes his way. She suddenly chucks her drink right in his face. He just stands there dripping and surprised while she storms off, clearly annoyed. She points out how he's starting to act just like his dad, always getting into fights and never thinking things through. The two of them realized the protagonist needed some help, so they started gathering study materials to get him ready. The two of them dig through a bag packed with random stuff, searching for something cool to give to RMC. They both want to find an item that'll actually mean something, not just some throwaway thing. As they sift through their options, they try to pick out whatever stands out the most, hoping RMC will like it. They gave him a DVD and told him to check it out before the ritual. He heads back home, his mind stuck on the gift. He grabs the DVD and pops it into the player, settling in to watch. He leans back, trying to get comfortable, not really sure what to expect but a little curious. He slides the disc into the player, and right away, that classic FBI warning pops up on the screen. The The movie playing is called The Goddess's Secret. Right away, he starts thinking about whether this has something to do with the weird summoning ritual from earlier. The video kicks off and a voice comes on, talking about unlocking the goddess's secret. The movie starts and right away, the main guy can't believe what he's seeing on the screen. He sits there, eyes wide, not sure if he's really watching this or if his mind is playing tricks on him. The goddess stands there in barely any clothes, posing in ways that grab everyone's attention. She looked over at him, checking if he was set to take in everything around them. He knows he probably shouldn't be watching this movie, but he can't help himself. He keeps his eyes glued to the screen, caught up in what's happening, even though there's that voice in the back of his head telling him to stop. Still, he doesn't look away. He thinks back to what the priest said about how people who act rude won't get any help from the goddess. The main guy's heart starts racing and his hands get sweaty. He looks around, trying to figure out what to do, but his mind's all over the place. It's clear he's starting to lose his cool. The goddess on TV announces that things are just getting started. She promises to lead him to paradise, hinting that there's a lot more waiting for him beyond what he can see now. She calls out to, and suddenly he can't look away. It's like the rest of the world just fades out for him. He's totally caught up in that moment. Right then, his nose suddenly started to bleed. He loses control and just lets loose as he watches the video. He reaches over and slides the tissue box closer, getting ready in case he needs it. He stays up all night, eyes glued to the movie, grabbing tissues whenever he needs them. Back in the present, the priest notices the main guy dozing off again. The man starts shouting at the boy, tearing him down and making him feel like he's nothing. The words hit hard, leaving the boy stuck with that heavy sinking feeling in his chest. The guy gives the main character a shove with his foot, basically pushing him right onto the stage. The guy steps up to the statue standing right at the front. The priest gives him a look, kind of hinting that he should focus. He tries to clear his head and concentrate, feeling the pressure of the moment as everyone waits to see what'll happen next. The main guy drops to his knees, looking up at the great goddess. Deep down, he hopes she'll give him the strength he needs. He focuses hard, hoping to get his hands on a great sword. Suddenly, the statue of the goddess comes to life and starts talking to him. The main guy keeps thinking about scenes from the movie he saw last night. The images pop up in his head, almost like his brain running a highlight reel, and he can't help but replay some of the crazier moments while he goes about his day. He tries to pay attention as the sword is handed to him, but those weird visions just won't stop popping up in his head. The hero suddenly loses it, yelling and rolling around on the ground. He's totally overwhelmed and just can't focus at all. Out of nowhere, someone yelled, catching the priest off guard and making him turn around. The statue of the goddess started to light up. The priest glances over and notices the statue. Nobody really knows what's going on. Everyone just looks around trying to figure it out. Light dropped down from the sky. A bright beam of light shines down on the main character. The priest can tell right away that the power coming out is way more than any normal person could deal with. He's tense, watching closely, because he knows this isn't something humans are built to handle. He slips away into the crowd, calling out for the guy to stay strong as he disappears. A flash of light suddenly fills the room, making it impossible for anyone to see anything. As the brightness fades and the dust slowly drifts down, the priest tries to figure out what the hero just called out. The statue of the goddess starts to split, thin cracks crawling across the stone. He wakes up and realizes there's a woman lying next to him, right in his arms. Everyone in the crowd looks around, not really sure what's going on. They watch as a woman appears next to the hero and nobody expected that. People start whispering to each other, trying to figure out if this was supposed to happen or if it's some kind of mistake. The whole place feels tense, with everyone waiting to see what the hero will do next. The woman rests against the main guy, her presence impossible to ignore. She's close enough that anyone watching would notice, and it's clear she's comfortable where she is. Everyone in the crowd starts yelling, their faces full of panic when they spot the woman moving over him. The woman sits up, settling herself right on top of the boy's lap while he's stretched out on the ground. The main character just stands there, frozen. He can't believe what just happened, and for a second it's like his mind goes totally blank. It's hard to process, and all he can do is try to take it all in. She was sitting right on top of him, and he just looked up, totally confused about what was happening. The woman moves in, getting really close to his face. He wasn't sure if the summoning actually worked. As he looked at the girl in front of him, he tried to figure out who she was. She lets him know that in her eyes, she's the one he looks up to, almost like she's on another level. He couldn't get her out of his head since last night, so she showed up. The hero stared at the thing he just summoned, panic rising inside him. He couldn't believe what he was looking at, and everything felt a little out of control. He stood there, frozen, trying to figure out what he'd done and what was going to happen next. Everyone in the crowd just stands there, frozen, not sure what to think. The priest looks around, unsure if the summoning actually worked or if something went wrong. The old man's face tightens with anger when he spots the woman standing in front of the sacred statue, barely dressed. He can't believe someone would show up like that in a place people are supposed to respect. His eyes narrow as he watches her, clearly upset by how casually she's treating the whole thing. She watches him while he gets more annoyed by the second. The priest stares, completely thrown off by what's happening. He's clearly not used to seeing anyone act this boldly in front of the goddess. The whole thing just feels wrong to him, and he can't believe someone would do something so disrespectful right there. Doesn't really get what's going on. He stands there trying to make sense of everything, but it just isn't clicking for him. The man lets everyone know that the ritual is actually for calling up some holy weapons, not for bringing out a woman. The guy thinks what the hero just called up is straight up gross, and honestly he looks embarrassed for everyone who saw it. The priest points at the guy, blaming him for messing up the ritual on purpose. Everyone's eyes are on him now, and he can feel the pressure building. He didn't mean for any of this to happen, but now it looks like he's in serious trouble. just stands there completely lost for words. He can't even react, his mind blank, not sure what to do next. The main guy realizes people are starting to think he's some kind of creep, so he bolts away from her as fast as he can. He walked away, not looking back at the priest or the goddess. The main guy takes off running, his heart pounding as he tries to figure out how he just managed to bring that woman from the video into real life. Confused and a little freaked out, he keeps moving, searching for answers and trying to make sense of what just happened. He gets loud, blaming her for messing up his sword and trashing his reputation. For him, it's more than just a broken weapon. Everyone's going to talk, and he knows his name is going to come up in the worst way. Tina, the goddess, goes right up to the guy and yanks his underwear way up, giving him a brutal atomic wedgie. Tina grabs onto the back of his shorts, not letting go as he scrambles to get away. He's in full-on panic mode, trying to make a run for it before the FBI shows up. Every second feels way too long, and he just wants to escape before things get even crazier. Tina suddenly grabs the hero's shorts and tears them right down the middle. She stands there looking determined, making it clear that she's not going anywhere and plans to stick with him, no matter what. He darts down the street, his shorts barely holding together, looking more like something a caveman would wear than actual clothes. He finally makes it back home. He feels a wave of relief after getting away from that weird lady. After thinking it over, the guy makes up his mind to stay away from that woman no matter what. He spun around and saw Tina just sitting there on his bed. She grabs something from her own clothes and hands it over, letting him know he should put it on. The color drains from his face, and he looks like he just saw something he really didn't expect. Outside, people started chucking eggs at his window and yelling at him, calling him names. An egg splatters against the window. Watching the mess drip down, he just slumps in his chair, thinking about how his social life is basically over now. He wonders to himself if she's actually some kind of divine weapon or if she's a real goddess. Tina walked up looking pretty confident and told him her name. She seemed curious and wanted to know if he was a god too. She just smiled and kept quiet, clearly not planning on sharing anything else. He suddenly remembered that the DVD he'd watched had the same name, The Goddess's Secret. He grabs the DVD with Tina hanging onto him, and right away he can tell there's something off about it. He accidentally lets the disc slip from his hand, and as it hits the floor he notices the cover looks completely different now. It shows a pig on it. The main guy just can't figure out what's going on with that DVD. It's got him scratching his head, trying to piece things together, but nothing makes sense yet. He grabs his phone and calls his friend May, hoping she can explain what's going on. The girl picks up the phone and it looks like she's started drinking again. The hero starts talking, trying to clear things up, but the woman just acts like she doesn't hear a word. She looks away, ignoring him completely, almost like he's invisible. He stands there a bit lost, not sure what to do next. Her screen froze for a second and she looked annoyed. She mentioned the connection was messing up again and let him know she'd have to end the call. She ends the call and picks up her drink again, looking like she's got a lot on her mind. The main guy starts to get really anxious. He grabs his phone and dials the number one more time, hoping someone will finally pick up. He starts to notice his friend acting a little off, like he's hiding something. It's clear his friend knows more than he's letting on, but for some reason he's keeping it to himself. She wonders why her master keeps acting like she's not even there. He lost it and started raising his voice at her. He couldn't believe she messed up what was supposed to be the best day he'd ever had. The disappointment just hit hard and he couldn't hold back. He'd been dreaming about owning an awesome sword for years, and had spent a ton of time getting ready for this day. Tina wondered if he had even thought about her during the ritual. She steps in, closing the distance between them. He can sense she wants his attention, almost challenging him to admit he notices her more than just any weapon. There's a playful confidence in the way she moves, like she knows she's got an edge he can't ignore. Out of nowhere, Tina's stomach lets out a loud growl. She looks a little embarrassed, making it clear to everyone that she's hungry. He grabs a couple of instant noodle cups and starts getting them ready. The girl lights up as she tries the food. She really enjoys it, and it's clear from her smile that she thinks our hero did a great job with the meal. The guy started wondering who this girl really was and where she even came from. He couldn't help but think about it, trying to figure out what her deal was. She tells him she came down from the sky because he called her. The main guy still doesn't really buy it, but the girl keeps saying she's the real Tina, like there's no one else. The guy starts to wonder if she's saying she doesn't really know who she is. Tina's stretched out on her back, her stomach completely full. She looked pretty satisfied, clearly enjoying the meal she just had. After they finished eating, Tina brought up the idea of chilling out for a bit. Everyone seemed down for it, ready to kick back and take it easy after the meal. She stretches out on the couch, making it pretty obvious she wants attention. Out of nowhere, she stretched out on the couch. The sudden move caught the guy off guard, making him jump just a little inside. He drifts off and starts to sleep. He lifts her up in his arms and brings her over to the bed. He looks at her and can't help but remember how everyone treats him differently now, like he's done something really bad. He figures it's better to stay out of trouble, so he just grabs a blanket and makes himself comfortable on the floor. He makes up his mind to give the summoning ritual another shot the next day. While he's sleeping, his mind drifts back to dreams about Tina. She always believed that every hero had someone important supporting them, usually someone like her. In her mind, he wouldn't get far without her by his side. The girl steps in, closing the distance between them. She looks serious, almost determined, as she makes it clear she's ready to become the strongest weapon for her master. The hero jolts awake, heart racing and breath quick. The memory of yelling for her to run still echoes in his mind, leaving him a little shaken as he tries to figure out what just happened. He wakes up and notices everything around him is normal. That's when it hits him, it was only a dream. He rolls onto his side and lets out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. The whole thing wasn't real, and that thought calms him down. Out of nowhere, he notices a hand touch his face. That's when he realizes Tina is standing right next to him. The main character isn't sure if he's still stuck in a dream or if all this weird stuff is actually going down right now. Everything feels kind of unreal, and he keeps looking around, trying to figure out what's real and what's not. It's like his brain can't decide if he's awake or still asleep. In his head, he could almost hear Tina reminding him that it didn't matter if this was all just a dream. She'd already chosen to be with him, and that was what really counted. The girl leans in close, getting comfortable right next to him. He freezes, barely able to move, his heart pounding as he tries to figure out what to do. She started messing with him, hinting that he was actually better with girls than he let on. He freezes up, his mouth opening but no words coming out. He understands that he needs to quit pretending and be honest about what he really wants. He thinks he must still be dreaming, so he just chills and soaks it all in, figuring he might as well enjoy whatever's happening. Tina suddenly wakes up, catching the main guy off guard since he was right in the middle of doing something he probably shouldn't have been. He sits up in bed, trying to clear things up so he doesn't come off as weird. The girl looks at him differently now, her eyes locked on his face. She studies him for a moment, clearly trying to figure out if she knows him or not. It's obvious she doesn't recognize him and wants to know who this guy really is. Out of nowhere, the girl's hair changes too. She looks around, clearly confused, trying to figure out where she is and why she's there. The guy suddenly steps forward and lands a kick right at the main character. After taking a hit below the belt, the main guy barely had time to react before she landed another blow right on his head. She floats above the ground and reaches down, grabbing his leg. He slams hard into the wall, the impact leaving him dazed and aching. He wonders what's going on with her and tries to figure out what happened to Tina. She doesn't pay him any attention and just keeps walking ahead. Tears started rolling down his face as he tried to make sense of the chaos he just pulled into his own world. He couldn't help but sit there and wonder how everything got so out of control. She slams her foot into the wall just inches from his head. The sound echoes, leaving him frozen for a second, staring at the spot where the impact landed. The kick comes flying at him and stops just short of his face. Right after, the wall behind him breaks apart, pieces flying everywhere. She steps closer, curious about what he meant when he mentioned summoning. She looks around with her green eyes, trying to figure out if this place is actually the human world. Some guys in another room are watching a video of the main character getting summoned. They're focused on the footage, trying to figure out what really happened. Nobody could believe the boy actually made it through all that divine power. Everyone just stared, kind of amazed he was still standing after everything he went through. People started saying he was a joke now. Some of them watched him more closely, thinking he was up to something weird. At the church, the priest got together with a few other guys, all looking pretty tense. They were talking quietly about how the summoning didn't work out. Everyone seemed unsure about what to do next, glancing at each other and waiting for someone to come up with a plan. The air in the church felt heavy, and nobody wanted to be the first to admit they were disappointed. The priest looked around at everyone, trying to keep things under control. People could tell something wasn't right, but he wanted them to stay chill and not panic since things were getting tricky. Out of nowhere, he glances up and signals to his boss, wanting to talk things over. A strange voice let everyone know that the summoning actually worked. The voice points out that things are tough right now, but reminds him that sometimes when stuff changes, it can actually open up new chances. He tells the group to watch what's happening and stay ready in case anything changes. The strange voice speaks up, telling everyone to sit back and watch what happens next. Back in his room, sits across from the main guy, eyes locked on him with a stare that definitely isn't friendly. It's the kind of look that makes you wonder if you're about to get called out or if something's about to go down. The tension in the room is real, and even without words, it's clear isn't messing around. The main guy stands frozen, eyes wide. He wants to speak, but nothing comes out. His heart is racing, and it's like his brain just hit pause. He tries to figure out what she means by summoning and wants to know why she showed up. He tells her that she's Tina, but she just brushes him off and wants to know how he managed to do the summoning. She stands there trying to wrap her head around what's going on. None of it makes sense to her, and she's pretty sure no one actually called her here. The main character stands there completely lost. She can't remember a single thing, not even her own name. Everything around her feels unfamiliar, like she just woke up in a place she's never been before. She tries to think back, but her mind's just blank. It's like her memories have been wiped clean, and all she can do is look around and wonder what's going on. The girl shook her head, clearly not buying it. She knew she couldn't have been called there, since she wasn't some kind of holy weapon or anything special like that. He insists he's telling the truth and really did try to call up a giant sword. The guy looks at her, trying to figure out if she remembers him, and calls her Tina. He tries to act like nothing's wrong, keeping his cool and pretending she's just a regular person, even though she's basically a sword turned into a human. She has no clue what he's talking about when he mentions a sword turning into a person. Even though he was pretty nervous, he pointed out that all she ever did was eat. That was just how things were. She shoots him a sharp look, clearly annoyed, letting him know he's getting on her nerves. The woman suddenly changed, her whole body turning into a shining golden sword right in front of everyone. The protagonist jumped a little when she saw the sword she just summoned. It was actually pretty decent, way better than she expected. There was this look on her face like she couldn't believe someone would compare her to a legendary weapon. She wasn't having it, and you could tell she was ready to make sure he understood he messed up. The hero can't help but worry about what she's up to. His mind races, thinking about all the things that could go wrong. He tries to act cool, but inside he's on edge, unsure if he's ready for whatever comes next. He suddenly notices his body isn't responding, like he's completely stuck. No matter how hard he tries, nothing happens, he just can't move at all. He remembers that a weapon with holy power can't hurt the person it belongs to. She freezes when she notices the mark on his arm. That's the sign of a divine weapon, and she wasn't expecting to see it here. Her mind races as she tries to figure out what this means and what she should do next. A golden mark lights up on his arm, showing that the deal between them is real. He notices the mark is keeping him safe, and now it's clear. She's not just anyone, she's actually a divine weapon. He looks at her, trying to get her to face the truth. He wants her to chill out and deal with what's really happening. Tina shakes her head and steps back. She isn't interested in taking it. The mark on her seems to mess with her, and she doesn't trust what might happen if she accepts. Suddenly, she lights up with a bright gold glow. Her scream cuts through the air, grabbing everyone's attention. The main guy couldn't believe it when the command actually worked. He hadn't expected much, but now he was staring at the results, a little stunned. It was one of those moments where you start to wonder if you should trust what just happened or if you're missing something. Still, he couldn't help but feel a bit excited, even if he tried to play it cool. Outside, the priest and his assistant pulled up to the house where the main character lived. The assistant really hadn't thought the academy would actually send him themselves. The priest stands there, caught off guard by what the academy decided. He's quiet for a moment, thinking it over, trying to figure out what's really going on. Back in the room, our hero finally feels like he can breathe again now that is gone. The weight on his shoulders starts to fade, and for the first time in a while, things seem a little less intense. The main guy starts to think there might be a problem with his mark. He suddenly remembers the girl was carrying a huge sword. He glances over at the girl sleeping nearby and spots that her hair color has changed again. He looks at her more closely now and realizes he wants his sword back, so he reaches for it, not really trusting her with it anymore. He figured that with the sword in hand, the summoning had worked out just fine, so he started checking her out, curious about what kind of person she was. He steps in, leaning closer to check things out. In his mind, he figures the sword must be in her mouth. He hesitates, caught off guard, because the last thing he wants to do is stick his hand in the girl's mouth. I mumbled, barely awake, his voice sounding tired. The main character leans in and checks her mouth, trying to see if the sword is hidden there. He's grossed out since all he can see is spit. He slides his fingers into her mouth, moving them around as if he's searching for something. But then someone suddenly steps in and breaks up their conversation. Out of nowhere, the priest steps into the room and spots him right in the middle of what he's doing. The priest suddenly gets loud, looking pretty excited. He says he has some good news and lets everyone know the academy finally made a decision about the guy's case. The priest suddenly goes quiet as soon as he notices what's happening in front of him. The hero acts like nothing's wrong, brushing it off as if the priest is just imagining stuff. He keeps his cool, not letting anything show on his face, hoping nobody catches on. The priest showed up to let him know that the academy had decided he wasn't on the hook for the ritual anymore. He lets them know that the academy is going to list the girl as his divine weapon. The guy looks over, wondering if this means he gets another shot at summoning. The old man lets him know they're done bringing it up. The main character thinks about the situation and decides he just can't bring himself to use someone else to do his fighting. That's not his style. Even if things are getting intense, he knows where his line is and he's not about to cross it, not even for an easy win. The priest scribbles a quick note and gives a nod, letting everyone know there's nothing to worry about. He casually puts a piece of paper on top of Tina's head, almost like it's no big deal. The great holy sword stood out right away. It wasn't just any weapon, it looked powerful, the kind of sword you'd see in legends or video games. Even just looking at it, you could tell it had a long history behind it, and anyone who held it would probably feel the weight of that legacy. The priest turned to go, letting everyone know his job was done. He walked out and closed the door behind him with a loud bang. The guy's pretty lost right now, since the academy has no clue about the mark. He pulls out his phone, hoping to reach the priest, but the guy's already heading out the door. The hero stood there looking pretty frustrated. He was clearly against the idea of using a girl as a weapon. His face showed he was serious, and it was obvious he wasn't going to let something like that happen. The priest just shrugged it off, making it clear that whatever was going on wasn't his issue. He pointed out that the instructor would handle things later, especially during the test. He waves goodbye, giving a look that says he's counting on him to do well on the test. He thinks about how tough it's going to be, trying to fight while making sure she's safe and keeping up. At the academy, a few students hung out in the hallway, chatting about the upcoming tests. Some of them looked a bit nervous, while others just joked around, trying to act like it was no big deal. The whole place had that usual buzz before exams, with everyone wondering how tough things would get this time. Out of nowhere, two side characters showed up and took down every student in the courtyard. No one really saw it coming, and it happened so fast that everyone just stood there, unsure of what to do next. The place went quiet, with students scattered around, all taken out by these two who usually didn't get much attention. One of the students thinks that beating the two intruders might get them out of taking the test. The student barely has time to catch his breath before something comes out of nowhere and knocks into him. The good-looking guy grabs the fainted student by the collar, keeping him from hitting the ground. The guy explains that he and his friend are part of the goddess's disciplinary committee. When the guy hears the name of the organization, his eyes go wide and he stops what he's doing. It hits him hard. He definitely wasn't expecting that, and he can't help but tense up. The invader steps forward, claiming to be one of the top guys from the capital, sent over to handle whatever issue is going on. He rushes ahead and takes down the rest of the students without much trouble. He twirls his weapon fast, showing off how quick and steady his hands are. He checks his side and sees nothing out of the ordinary, so he signals to his partner that everything looks good on his end. The list was nearly finished now, and it turned out the others were really just practice runs. His partner believed that people shouldn't get away with disrespecting the goddess, and thought there should be consequences for it. He checks out the main character's file, and decides he has to go through some kind of purification ritual for the goddess. The next morning, Tina gets up and can't remember anything about what went down the day before. She looks at him, confused about why her hair suddenly looks different. She doesn't get why he's acting like she went after him with a sword either. Everything just feels off, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. The hero looks lost, not really sure why Tina's acting the way she is. She just shakes her head, telling him he must been spacing out again. She steps in, closing the gap between them. It's pretty clear she's not shy about what she wants. He gets the hint. If he ever wants attention from her, he just has to speak up. He quickly steps back and brushes her off, trying to act casual about the whole thing. Meanwhile, she points at him, looking annoyed, and calls him out for being creepy. He stops for a second, thinking back to what the priest said. It hits him that bringing Tina to the test is actually a crazy idea. The hero wanted to know if she could handle herself in a fight, and what her plan would be for the test. The girl gives him a steady look, her eyes showing she's totally sure of herself. To her, getting into a fight isn't a big deal. It's just something easy, almost like she's done it 100 times before. He thinks back to when he had hair and remembers how strong he felt back then. He thinks about how much easier everything would be if she helped out. Passing the test and taking down those monsters wouldn't seem so tough with her on his side. The girl steps up and starts showing off her fighting style, landing a few quick, gentle punches on the hero. She doesn't go all out, just enough to prove she knows what she's doing. The hero watches, picking up on her moves, probably realizing she's tougher than she looks. The guy's totally thrown off. He didn't see this coming at all. He thought she'd have his back, but now he's just frustrated, wondering how things went sideways so fast. He grabs her arm and quickly leads her outside, not saying a word about what's going on. The main character heads to the equipment store, stomach growling the whole way. She keeps thinking about food, barely paying attention to anything else as she walks through the aisles. Even while checking out the gear, her mind's stuck on what she's going to eat next. When he walked into the store, a girl at the counter noticed him right away. She gave him a quick smile, clearly knowing who he was, which made things a little less awkward. The clerk couldn't help but mess with him a little, bringing up how everyone seemed to know about the trouble he had with his summoning. He brushes off the teasing and heads over to check out some armor, planning to get something for the girl who's with him. The girl working at the store stops what she's doing, her eyes going wide when she sees Tina. She clearly didn't expect to see something like this and tries to figure out what's going on. She looks at the guy as if she's trying to put the pieces together, maybe wondering if Tina is actually the special weapon he called for. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. She really thought he'd only brought out some kind of doll, not an actual person. The hero tried to make sense of what just happened. The Academy had listed her as his divine weapon, but no one bothered to tell him why. It left him stuck with a lot of questions and not many answers. He points over to the toughest looking armor in the shop and gestures for Tina to give it a shot. He grabs the armor and holds it up for her to see. It's the one that everyone seems to want, the most popular piece in the store. Tina suits up in the armor and he finally feels at ease. Now that she's protected, he can relax a little, knowing she'll be okay. The clerk pointed to the armor and told him it was $15,000. He also mentioned that the armor looked way too manly for a girl, making it clear he didn't think it suited her at all. The guy decides to give it a shot and asks if he can get a discount. The clerk just shakes her head, letting him know it's not going to happen. He pulls out his phone, pays the whole amount without saying much. Deep down, he can't help but think she's being cold toward him. Turns out the girl isn't actually in charge of the store. She just works there, nothing more. She looks over at him, her eyes searching. She wants to know where his legendary weapon is. He turns around and notices Tina isn't there anymore. Right away, he starts searching for her, scanning the area and checking every corner, hoping to spot her before things get weird. He spots her checking out some clothes, flipping through the racks and looking for something cool to wear. The hero looked over and noticed her standing off to the side, kind of doing her own thing. He wondered what she was up to, curious about why she wasn't with everyone else. Tina looks even more lost than he does. She holds up a pair of sunglasses, catching his attention. She wants him to see what she discovered, almost like she's sharing a cool find with a friend. He checks out the glasses in front of him, but honestly, they just remind him of lingerie. When the girl spotted the price tag, her eyes went wide. The item cost 100,000 Academy coins, way more than she expected. She stared at the number, not sure how anyone could afford something that expensive. Not too far away, two girls notice him checking out the lingerie section. They look at each other, clearly thinking it's weird for a guy to be hanging around there. The main guy feels his face heat up, trying to figure out why an equipment store would even have something like that for sale. Tina walked over and pointed out that she liked the item. She gave him that look, the one that made it clear she wanted him to get it for her. He couldn't believe how expensive it was. The price just seemed way over the top, and he didn't hide how annoyed he felt. In his head, he thought she was just trying to squeeze every last bit out of him, almost like she was out to drain his wallet for fun. The store clerk notices that selling lingerie brings in way more cash than all the equipment in the shop. She shoots him a quick wink, thinking to herself that he can be pretty clueless sometimes. The guy stared at the price tag, his jaw practically dropping. He couldn't believe how much they wanted for a tiny piece of clothing. It was like the store was trying to mess with him. He looked around, hoping someone else saw how ridiculous it was. He drops the lingerie on the floor and lets her know he got her some armor instead, figuring that's what she really needs to stay safe. He nudged her toward the dressing room, making it clear she needed to hurry up and change. The clerk pointed out the broken item and let him know it would cost 100,000 coins. Tina's voice came from inside the dressing room, grabbing his attention. He wondered what she needed now and waited for her to explain. She reaches out and grabs his hand, pulling him closer. She needs a hand with the armor, so he steps up, ready to help her get suited up. He pulls the curtain open and sees her staring back at him, her face calm and kind of innocent, like she's not hiding anything. He watches her fumble around, clearly lost about how to put it on. He told her she had to take off her skirt before putting on the armor. The girl stands there, eyebrows pulled together, unsure what the guy was talking about when he mentioned a skirt. She tries to figure out if she missed something, her mind racing through the conversation, but nothing clicks. She smiled, showing she got what he was trying to say. He watched as the girl suddenly began to take off her clothes right in front of him. He definitely didn't see that coming, and for a moment he just stood there, completely thrown off by what she was doing. The main guy decides to start by putting on the back part of his armor first. He helped her get into the armor, even though she kept saying it was way too tight. She turned around and it was pretty clear, the armor fit her body perfectly. Out of nowhere, the clerk notices some weird sounds coming from the dressing room. He stops what he's doing, trying to figure out what's going on back there. The girl looks uncomfortable, struggling to catch her breath because the armor is way too tight on her. The hero moved quickly, trying to keep things chill as he worked on the adjustment. He could see she was getting anxious, so he focused on finishing up, hoping she'd relax once he was done. He finally gets it done and lets out a long breath. Turns out it was way more exhausting than he thought it would be. The hero thought it was about time to finish putting on the rest of his armor. Tina stood off to the side, trying to steady her breathing after everything that just happened. He keeps his arms wrapped around her, making sure she stays still while he fumbles to get the rest of his gear on. The girl suddenly tries to bolt, clearly fed up with the armor. She's struggling with it, not liking how tight it feels. Before she gets far, the main guy grabs her arm and pulls her back. He's not letting her quit, making it clear she has to deal with it whether she likes it or not. Tina looks scared as she pleads for him to let her go, but he just ignores her. He points out that without her armor, she's got no real protection and might not make it through the test. The idea of what could happen out there is clear on his face. He's really worried she won't stand a chance against whatever's waiting. Everyone in the store froze when they heard screams coming from the dressing room. Heads turned and people stopped what they were doing, all looking toward the back of the store. Some started whispering to each other, while others just stood there, not sure what to do next. The whole place got tense and nobody wanted to be the first to move. The clerk just stands there looking totally chill while the customers start to panic. When they got home, the hero made it clear she had to listen to him, or she wouldn't be getting any food. The girl winced and let out a sharp cry while he kept working on her armor. He tried to fix it as quickly as he could, but each adjustment seemed to hurt her more. She squeezed her eyes shut, gripping her hands tight, just trying to get through it. He looked a little tense, clearly wanting to help but not sure how to make it easier for her. The clerk heard someone screaming and quickly pulled back the curtain to check out what was happening. She walks in and sees them on the dressing room floor, way too close for comfort. The girl who works at the store isn't having it. She gets irritated because the guys are being loud and messing up her day at work. She pushes him out of the store and makes sure he can't come back in. Outside, Tina looked uneasy as she tried to say sorry. She hoped he wouldn't stay upset with her. Tina looked at the armor and clearly didn't want to wear it. She thought it was heavy and looked terrible. Still, our hero stuck to his decision and didn't let her get out of it. He lets them know that during the test, there will be monsters to deal with, so everyone's going to need some kind of protection. The girl looked at him and tried to reassure him. She wanted him to know that she had his back and would keep him safe if anything happened. Kept quiet. Tina glances over and sees that he's barely saying a word. She starts to wonder if he's still upset with her. Their hair suddenly starts moving faster. Tina noticed he was acting different, not like himself. She watched him closely, picking up on how uneasy he seemed. He finally admitted that something was off, but didn't go into details. The mood got tense, and Tina grew a little more concerned, trying to figure out what was going on with him. He lets the group know that someone has been on their tail for a bit. Back then, the main guy started to notice that something was off about the other dude. The way he acted just didn't sit right, and he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling creeping in. The hero checks out the guy and immediately gets a weird vibe. Something about the way the guy acts or looks just puts him on edge. He can't shake the uneasy feeling and it starts to bother him. The main guy spots Tina and quickly signals her to get out of there. He's tense, scanning the area, wanting her safe before anything else goes down. After they'd been running for a while, Tina looked back, trying to figure out if that creepy guy was still behind them. She was clearly hoping they'd lost him, but wasn't totally sure yet. Out of nowhere, a strange voice called out, telling the guy to freeze. A girl with green hair showed up, looking around like she'd been searching for someone. It was clear she'd been trying to find him and the creature he'd brought along. The main guy looks at the two people in front of him, trying to figure out who they are. He's got that confused look, like he's trying to remember if he's seen them somewhere before or if they're just random strangers. His mind races, searching for any clue about their faces or why they might be here. Another guy walks over and wants to know if anyone's heard about the goddess's disciplinary committee. The girl explains that the committee's job is to go after anyone doing bad stuff. Tina looks over at the group, trying to figure out what's going on. She wonders if these people are actually about to rob them. Her mind races through all the stories she's heard online about random muggings, and she can't help but get a little nervous. The green-haired girl steps forward, looking serious. She's decided that she's going to arrest the hero and his weapon, all because he called her a goddess. The hero probably didn't expect things to go this way, but now he's stuck in this weird situation, waiting to see what she'll do next. The main guy lets everyone know that the academy already knows about the summoning, and says they've got the wrong idea about what's going on. The committee girl made it clear there was no way out for him. She spelled it out so simply that even he couldn't argue. Either he gave up now or he gave up later. No loopholes, no misunderstandings, just those two options staring him down. The hero looks around, figuring the only thing he can do now is push back. He doesn't see any other way out, so he braces himself, ready to fight whatever comes next. The guy from the committee charges at him, swinging a staff, but the main character reacts fast and chucks the box at him. The hero drops to the ground with Tina, while the guy nearby starts grumbling about getting hit. The girl tossed a pair of handcuffs his way, making it clear she wanted him to lock himself up so things wouldn't get any messier. She puts her foot down on him, making it clear she's not messing around. It's her way of keeping things under control, making sure he doesn't do anything stupid and get hurt worse. The committee girl grabbed Tina and held her close, worried about what the tribunal might do to her. The main guy sees the threat and anger just takes over. He tightens his fists and gets ready to throw down, not backing off even a little. It's clear he's not about to let anyone mess with him. Tina steps forward, making it clear that she and the others have a job to do. They're supposed to look out for the goddess, keep her safe no matter what. Everyone around her can tell she's serious about it, she's not backing down. The hero stands ready, determined to face whatever comes next. He knows there could be trouble ahead, but he's not backing down. If anyone shows up to challenge him, he's set on taking them out no matter who they are. He keeps his eyes forward, showing he's not afraid to deal with whatever enemies cross his path. He stands up looking determined. He's not about to just sit there and let them throw random accusations at him. The guy just brushed them off, making it clear that whatever he was calling up had nothing to do with anyone else. He kept his focus on what he was doing, not letting their curiosity get in his way. He stomps down on the handcuffs, making his point clear. The girl gets the message and backs off from Tina right away. The committee girl thinks he's just being stubborn and doesn't see the point in him fighting back. She pushes Tina out of the way, deciding she's going to take care of the hero before anything else. The guy from the committee showed up, saying he'd traveled all the way from the capital just to handle the mess our hero made. He lifts his staff high, making it clear he wants the main character to get down on his knees and take whatever's coming next. He stares down his opponent, eyes narrowed and focused, getting ready for the fight ahead. He moves fast, jumping up and knocking the other guy's staff out of his hands with a solid kick. The committee guy hits the ground, caught off guard by how strong the main character is. He stands up, his face tight with anger, still trying to figure out how he lost so fast. The hero's face looked annoyed, like something was bothering him and he couldn't hide it. He charges at the enemy and nails him with a solid punch right in the face. At first, the main guy figured the other dude was pretty tough. Turned out, though, he wasn't strong at all, just pretending. The committee girl couldn't believe what just happened. She looked at her partner, thinking there was no way someone from the elite group could actually lose. It just didn't add up for her, and for a moment she was stuck, trying to figure out how things went so sideways. The hero reaches out and grabs her arm, holding her back. He keeps his cool, reminding himself that he never hits girls, no matter how heated things get. He points out that her armor got messed up and tells her she now owes him 100,000 coins. The committee girl looks really mad. She can't believe what he just did to embarrass her in front of everyone. To her, it's not something she can just let go. She points at her partner, signaling him to grab his powerful weapon. It's clear she wants him to end things right there, pushing him to take down the hero for good. Tina notices the guy's grin, and it really throws her off. Something about the way he smiles just seems off to her, almost like he's up to no good. She can't help but think it's weird. The committee guy stares down our hero, his eyes cold and serious. You can tell he's not messing around as he gets ready to make his move. He lets out this strong blue glow, almost like energy coming off him, and gets ready to show what real despair looks like. The main guy can't believe what he's seeing. Right there in the middle of the city, that dude just pulled out his divine weapon like it was no big deal. It's not something you'd expect to see out in public, and the surprise hits hard. Tina flinched when a surge of energy shot out while the hero stepped in front of her. She wasn't expecting that kind of force, and it definitely caught her off guard. All she could do was watch as the hero shielded her without even hesitating. The committee guy pulls out a serious-looking weapon, getting ready to go all in for the fight. Weapon ready, he charges straight at the main guy, aiming to end it right there. He spots trouble coming his way and gets ready to move, muscles tensing as he watches for the attack. He quickly steps in front of Tina and moves her out of the way, making sure she's safe from the attack coming their way. The hero quickly spots the girl standing way too close to where things are about to go down. He steps in, warning her to move before the blast hits, making sure she's safe and out of danger. The guy takes off, moving fast, his weapon ready. He closes the distance quick and lands a strong hit. The main character squares up, ready to face the attack straight on. He stands his ground, muscles tensed, not backing down even when things look rough. He quickly raises his own weapon just in time to block the attack. The moment their weapons clash, there's a massive blast, sending dust and energy flying everywhere. Tina shouted, calling out for the hero, her mind racing with worry about what could have gone wrong. Once the explosion faded and the dust fell back down, everyone could finally see what happened after that wild fight. The hit landed with so much force that buildings nearby took a serious beating, walls cracking and windows shattering all around. Dust settled in the air as the main guy moved forward, proving he'd made it through the attack. He's standing, but after taking that hard hit, he coughs up a bit of blood. The committee guy stands there, eyes wide, clearly surprised that the hero managed to stay on his feet after that hit. He probably thought the hero would be out cold by now, but seeing him still standing throws him off. The guy shrugs off his move like it was no big deal. He doesn't act like he did anything amazing, and he's still on his feet looking pretty steady. Even though he's hurt, he steps up to face his opponent, making it clear he's ready for whatever comes next. The committee guy's face turns red with anger when he sees that our hero fought back, without even using a divine weapon. He grinned, sizing up the main guy, and looked ready to test just how tough he really was. He rushes in again, going all out as he aims straight for the hero. He wants to get up, but his body just won't listen. The pain from his injuries has him stuck, unable to move, no matter how hard he tries. He realizes the divine weapon is way too powerful for him. No matter how hard he tries, he knows he can't fight back against it. He starts thinking this might actually be the end for him. The committee girl steps in and lets everyone know the fight's done. She makes it clear that her side has won. She looks over at Tina and lets her know that she's the next one out. Out of nowhere, Tina's eyes lit up with a gold glow. Anyone watching could tell she was seriously angry. She moves in front of him, standing between the guys and the main character. It's clear she doesn't want anyone else to mess with him. He spots Tina standing way too close to danger and instantly panics, his heart racing. He really doesn't want anything bad to happen to her, so he calls out, hoping she'll move before something goes wrong. The enemy just grinned, looking almost too calm. He could tell she wanted something badly, so instead of backing down, the enemy made it clear. They were both heading over to the other side no matter what. The girl wraps her arms around him, holding on tight as danger closes in. She's trying to shield him from what's about to happen, putting herself between him and whatever's coming their way. The committee guy rushes in, eyes shining bright red. He looks totally focused, like he's ready to end this with one last hit. Tina had made up her mind a long time ago, no matter what happened, she was going to look out for him. That promise stuck with her, and she wasn't about to break it, even if things got tough. Out of nowhere, a massive beam of golden light drops down from the sky, lighting up the whole city. The enemy just stood there, frozen, totally confused about what had just gone down. It was like he couldn't wrap his head around it, trying to figure out how things changed so fast. Golden light spills over the whole city, covering everything in a warm, unreal glow. A bright light flashes in front of the guy, stopping the attack before it can land. He freaks out when he watches his legendary weapon just vanish into thin air, swallowed up by the light. The committee girl stares in disbelief at what's happening in front of her. In her mind, she recognizes it as some kind of powerful, overwhelming force, something that completely takes over the space, almost like it's on another level. She tells him this sort of thing only happens when one weapon is way stronger than the other. The committee girl freezes, her mind racing as she tries to figure out who Tina really is. Doubt creeps in, and she can't help but wonder if Tina is hiding something important. She saw what was about to happen and knew things were about to go really bad. Without wasting a second, she called out to her partner, telling him to get out of there fast. Right after, a blast of golden light ripped through the area, wiping out everything nearby. Once the dust cleared, the main guy found himself standing there with Tina knocked out cold in his arms. The guy kneels beside the girl, gently shaking her shoulder. She doesn't move at all, she's completely out cold. While all the fighting was going down, a weird drone hovered nearby, watching everything that happened. The creature went back to its master and let him know that the thing he summoned was actually pretty impressive. The person who controls the drone just grins, clearly proud. He looks at her like she's something special, not like anyone else he's ever met. The old man watched closely, his eyes lighting up with interest. A summon shaped like a human didn't come around often, and even he had to admit it was something special. He settled in, not wanting to miss what would happen next. The bald guy points out that leaving the girl alone might not be a good idea, since she could actually be trouble. His master lets him know that things are already looking bad for humanity. He lets everyone know it's better to just watch what happens next. Sometimes, when you don't know what's coming, it can actually turn out pretty interesting. Back in the city, the hero's still annoyed about those committee guys who came after him. He can't get over how unfair it all felt, and their faces keep popping up in his mind as he walks through the crowded streets. Every step just reminds him of how messed up the situation was, and he's already wondering if he'll have to deal with them again. At home, he's really annoyed because his clothes and armor got torn up. He glances over and spots Tina asleep. It hits him just how strong she was earlier. The main character starts to question herself, unsure about who she really is deep down. She can't shake off the confusion, and it keeps bugging her, making her think about her true identity. He thinks back to what he knows. Divine summons are supposed to be weapons, nothing else. But when he looks at her, he can't help but notice there's something off. She's different, and there's a bunch of stuff about her that doesn't quite add up. Tina, half asleep, starts mumbling random stuff that doesn't really make sense. The girl just keeps going, her voice steady. She acts like nothing can touch her master, almost daring anyone to try. He gets a little uncomfortable after hearing what she said while she was asleep. He looks at her, hoping she wakes up soon. Without her, all that food is just too much for one person. He really doesn't want to eat it alone. Tina slowly opened her eyes, blinking a couple of times as she started to come around. The girl slowly opened her eyes, looking around with a puzzled expression. Nothing around her looked familiar, and for a moment she just lay there, trying to figure out what was going on. The hero admits she hasn't had anything to eat all day, so hunger is definitely kicking in. Tina's eyes light up as soon as she spots the food. He went out of his way to get one of those huge instant noodle cups for her, the kind you only grab when you want to impress someone or just go all out. He holds out the food, offering to share with her, waiting to see if she's interested. Tina stares at the noodles, already hungry before she even takes a bite. He blocks her from moving forward, keeping the food just out of reach. He wants answers before he hands it over. Specifically, he wants to know who she is. Out of all the divine weapons out there, none of them are like her. He thought they should train together, even though he barely knew anything about her. All the girl can focus on right now is the thought of those delicious noodles. The hero can't help but stare, trying to figure out when she suddenly went and where that massive sword came from. He's curious, a bit thrown off by all the changes, wondering if he missed something huge. He's curious about how she managed to stop that committee guy's attack. The girl hits her limit and starts reaching out for the food, trying to grab it for herself. She gets really hungry and starts freaking out, yelling for food. At one point, she's so out of it that she actually bites the main guy. After she bites down on his arm, she tries to shake him off, squirming and pulling to break free. He points out that they're supposed to be partners, so acting fake isn't going to help. If they want to work together, they really need to understand each other. Tina stands her ground, looking confused, like she honestly has no idea what's going on. She's not trying to hide anything, and it shows. She just seems lost, wondering why he's coming at her like this. He lets out a quiet sigh, already knowing she's not going to reply. He figures if she can't remember, it's not a big deal, so he just lets her eat. Tina finishes all the noodles in an instant. His jaw drops, he can't believe how awesome she is. Tina honestly has no idea what went down during the fight. She's just as confused as everyone else, trying to piece together what happened but coming up with nothing. She lets him know she can't remember anything he's talking about. Everything went black for her during the fight, and she doesn't recall a thing after that. He heads to his room, looking worn out, and tells Tina good night before closing the door behind him. She looks at him, her face all downcast, and calls his name. She wonders if he's lost interest in her now that she isn't the fighter he expected. Right then, a golden light started to surround Tina. She looked at him, trying to figure out if he'd actually like it if she turned herself into a weapon. The hero freezes, eyes wide, as her body slowly starts to glow. The light creeps across her skin, making everything around her seem dim. For a moment, she just stands there, not sure what's happening, watching as her hands and arms get brighter, almost like she's fading away. The hero wonders if she has the power to turn herself into a divine weapon. She cared a lot about how she looked and really didn't want anyone to see her at her worst. She notices her master looking down, and she really doesn't want to make things worse for him. As soon as she finished, a bright light started shining all around her. The boy stares at Tina, his eyes wide, trying to process what just happened. Tina, who he thought was just a regular girl, had just changed right in front of him, turning into a weapon. It's not something he ever expected to see, and for a second his mind goes blank. He stands there, unsure what to think, as the whole idea of someone transforming like that feels unreal. He starts to get pumped, thinking this might be his chance to finally score a really strong sword. Once the light fades away, there's nothing left except a heap of clothes on the ground. The main guy looks around, clearly not sure what just happened. He tries to figure out where the girl disappeared to, scanning the area with a puzzled expression. He looks around, trying to spot the giant sword he thought would be there. He starts wondering if the weapon might be hidden nearby. The boy starts to think that maybe the sword is hidden under the clothes. He still had a little hope left, so he started digging through the fabric, trying to find something useful. Right after, he senses something weird and his expression turns odd. The boy sees Tina start to run and he quickly calls out, hoping she won't leave him behind. He doesn't want her to go, and his voice comes out louder than he meant. There's a worry in his chest that she might not stop. The main guy started looking everywhere for his divine weapon, digging through stuff and checking every possible spot. He was getting more stressed the longer he couldn't find it, his mind racing as he tried to remember where he last saw it. Every second that passed just made him more anxious, and he knew he couldn't give up until he found what he was looking for. At last, he digs through the pile of clothes and spots the weapon he was told was special. The hero grins and yanks it out confidently, pumped up by the win. He pulls out a meatball skewer, and right there on one of the meatballs is Tina's face, staring back at him. He just stands there, totally silent, as it hits him that his legendary weapon is actually just some street food snack. He felt pretty let down and just tossed the weapon in the trash. He acted like he didn't even know her, trying to brush it all off and move on. The skewer seemed to think he should be grateful that she changed, but he didn't really agree. It was hard for him to just pretend to be happy about it. Tina starts talking about divine summons, letting everyone know they can show up in all kinds of weird and unexpected ways. She's always shown how tough she is, and he knows deep down he can count on her. The whole thing seemed weird to him, but he still reached out and grabbed the weapon. After thinking it over, the main guy figures it's time to see what his new weapon can actually do. He looks at it, feeling a bit of curiosity and maybe a little excitement, and gets ready to try it out for real. The attack barely makes a mark, just leaving a tiny scratch on the wall. The weapon suddenly let out a weird, almost human-like sound, like it was hurting really bad. It shook and started to make these small, desperate noises, as if it thought something terrible was about to happen to it. The hero grabs the skewer, looking it over with serious eyes. He wonders if this plain-looking thing is actually supposed to be his legendary weapon. It's not what he expected at all, and he can't help but think, is this really it? The weapon tries to calm him down, letting him know it still has another trick up its sleeve and can change form once more. The main guy wonders what it's going to turn into this time. The skewer starts to shake. The weapon suddenly changes shape, turning into a skewer loaded with 4 meatballs. Tina stands tall, clearly proud of what she's done. She looks around, waiting to see if anyone else thinks it's as awesome as she does. Tina stopped him, letting him know things weren't finished yet. Not long after, the divine weapon begins to call up all sorts of food. The main guy totally freaks out when he sees food flying all over the place. Food ends up everywhere, turning the whole house into a disaster zone. It's like every room has some kind of mess and nothing looks the way it should. A fish smacked right onto his face, and that just made him even more annoyed. The boy calls out, trying to get Tina to quit whatever she's doing right away. He's clearly had enough of the chaos and just wants things to calm down. After everything that happened, the hero is completely worn out. Tina, on the other hand, finally goes back to the way she was before. She pulls the blanket over her head, trying to cover her face. She's super embarrassed and just wants to disappear for a second. She'd only wanted to help out, putting in a lot of effort even if things didn't go perfectly. He realized he probably shouldn't have let himself get excited in the first place. He walks up to Tina and tells her not to transform anymore. He lets her know that a divine weapon is meant for battles, not for messing around. He tells her to get up, but Tina stays where she is, looking uncomfortable. She doesn't get up, clearly embarrassed because she doesn't have any clothes on. The main guy quickly looks away, his face turning red. As he tries to play it cool, his eyes land on Tina's clothes scattered across the floor, and he's not really sure where to look. Somewhere else, there's this weird rustling coming from the tall grass. Two ladybugs showed up in a spot where you wouldn't really expect to find them, almost like they were up to something. They looked really caught up with their work, barely paying attention to anything else going on around them. Out of nowhere, a foot comes down and smashes the two ladybugs that were together just a second ago. Some guy showed up, looking annoyed because his phone had just died. He tosses his phone aside and looks up, wanting to know how much longer they have to go before they get there. May with her bright pink hair gets carried by the guy. She thinks he's just trying to keep the main guy from leaving. The girl tossed a canteen right at him, making it clear she was doing her own thing and didn't care what he thought. The big guy looks over at the protagonist, thinking about whether he can handle things by himself. He keeps an eye on him, not sure if the kid's ready to go solo yet. The man points out that the boy's grown up now and can handle things on his own. He figures there's no reason to keep watching over him like he's still a kid. She nods, letting him know she already made up her mind a while back. Everything was settled, and now she's just going along with it. He gets reminded to keep his head in the game and stick to what he's supposed to be doing. She made it clear that if something ever happened to the main guy, she wouldn't just sit back and watch. She'd do whatever it took, not caring who stood in her way. Everyone could tell she meant it. Protecting him was her top priority. Right then, the big guy let May know that a really powerful monster, one of those S-rank types, was heading their way. The girl pulls out her divine weapon, clearly not in the mood to mess around. You can tell she's had enough and is ready to go after the creature, letting her anger drive her forward. While all this was going on, the main guy found some clothes for Tina and handed them to her. He still finds reasons to point out her hair, always reminding her to tie it back. Tina listens and starts tying her hair back, holding a hair clip between her lips as she gets ready. He starts to get restless, tapping on the door to see if she's finished yet. She steps inside and glances at her reflection. Something just feels off to her and she can't quite figure out why. The hero can't stand waiting anymore. He swings the door open and wonders what's taking her so long. He just stands there not saying a word as he spots Tina in her new outfit. She's got a bow in her hair now and he can't help but stare, a little surprised by how different she looks. He gets a little embarrassed, but he mentions that her last outfit looked better. Then he tells her to come with him. Inside the castle, a white dove flew down and settled quietly on the flag. The door slid open and people started filing in one after another. Everyone in the crowd looks tense as they get ready for the test. Some close their eyes for a second, hoping the goddess is listening and that luck's on their side. The main guy signs up for the test, getting himself set for what's coming next. He just wants the exam to go well. His info pops up he's 16 and still in school. The system picks up that he has a powerful weapon called Tina. Out of nowhere, one of the bullies hears the name and instantly reacts. He freezes for a second, his eyes going wide as if something just clicked in his head. The whole group seems to pick up on it, looking at each other like they just realized who they're dealing with. As soon as he heard his name, he quickly took Tina's hand and started running, wanting to stay out of any mess that might come their way. Everyone shows up and stands around in a big courtyard. There's a guy standing way up high, keeping an eye on everything from a distance. The priest realizes it's time for another round of tests and starts thinking about how the kids might handle everything this year. He can't help but worry, thinking about who's actually going to make it all the way to the end. The woman let him know that things were different now. From this point on, he and the others were soldiers, whether they liked it or not. This is what they've been told to do. She points out that people might feel sorry about what's happening, but in the end, nothing they do will change how things turn out. The headmaster stays quiet for a second, just standing there. Then he reaches for the microphone. Out of nowhere, his face showed up on the big screen in front of everyone. He looked pretty proud as he let the students know he was impressed they'd made it this far. They put in a ton of hard work, and he couldn't help but feel proud of everything they'd done. The headmaster raises his voice so everyone can hear him, making it clear just how proud he is of all the students standing there. He tells them they're the goddess's own warriors, and he's sure that whatever happens, they'll always have her glory on their side. The test was about to start, and as soon as the gates swung open, everyone's attention snapped forward. The main guy and Tina showed up at this really cool spot surrounded by trees and greenery. The place looked fresh, like somewhere you'd want to hang out or take a break from everything. It was quiet except for the sounds of birds and leaves, and the whole vibe just felt chill and peaceful. The girl looks around, clearly impressed by the place. She starts thinking it would be pretty cool to have a picnic there. He lets her know she shouldn't just take off, since this place could get pretty risky. Tina spots a field full of flowers, and even though she knows she probably shouldn't, she just takes off running toward it. She doesn't stop to think about the warning. She's just drawn in by how cool the flowers look, wanting to check them out up close. Scape looks amazing. There's a calm lake with water that reflects the sky, and red roses are everywhere, making the whole place stand out. She dives right into the middle of the flowers, just enjoying how awesome they look all around her. Out of nowhere, she spots something weird tucked between the roses. The girl was checking out the flowers when she noticed something weird tucked between the petals. She leaned in for a closer look and her heart skipped a beat. It was a skull, half buried and almost hidden by all the colorful blossoms. For a second she just stared, frozen, trying to figure out if what she was seeing was even real. Tina's heart started racing as soon as she saw what was in front of her. Her hands went cold and it felt like the room got smaller. She tried to steady her breath, but she couldn't shake off how uneasy she felt. She bolts, her heart pounding, scared out of her mind when she sees the skull. Notices a weird shadow creeping up behind him. Tina keeps running, her heart pounding as she yells out how scared she is. She calls out for him, her voice shaky and desperate, hoping he'll come through when she needs him most. The person in the shadows steps right in front of her. He pushes Tina while she's running. As the mysterious guy walked past her, the girl suddenly lost her balance and hit the ground. The main guy freezes for a second, not expecting to see Tina in trouble. His heart jumps, and before he really thinks about it, her name slips out as he tries to get her attention. He can't help but feel tense, hoping she's okay. Rushes over and jumps in to help her, stepping in between her and the guy causing trouble. He doesn't hesitate, just gets in the way to try and make the guy back off. The hero's patience snapped. He couldn't just let it go and wanted the guy to say sorry. But instead of backing down, the other guy went straight on the offensive, firing a blast of light right at him. The guy spots the main character and calls him out by name, clearly recognizing him right away. He thinks isn't worth much without a divine weapon, and believes shouldn't be asking for anything. The boy's face tightens up as anger builds inside him. He locks eyes with the bully, staring hard, not backing down. Somewhere else, 3 guys get held up right at the entrance to the test. One of the guys in the group starts to get irritated and looks over at the guard, not really understanding what's going on. He's clearly not happy and wants to know why the guard is acting this way. He lets everyone know they're from the clan, and that every student has a shot at joining in. The guy kept grumbling about how they weren't even out of school yet. One of the girls in the group starts talking about the clan. She tells everyone that the clan stands for the goddess's honor. The guard looks at them, clearly unsure. He doesn't want any problems, so he just steps aside and lets them pass. The hero looked at Tina, knowing the test coming up wasn't something to mess around with. He tried to get her attention, hoping she'd actually hear him out this time, because if she didn't, things could go sideways real fast. He wanted her to understand how risky it was and really hoped she'd trust what he was saying. He keeps talking, reminding her to pay attention and not wander off. The main guy knows this test isn't some regular challenge, it's actually pretty dangerous. He understands it's more like a life-or-death game where one wrong move could end things fast. He stays alert, always watching out for any threats or traps because he knows messing up isn't an option. Glanced over to see if she was paying attention while they walked. He wanted to make sure she caught what he just said, but she didn't really react, so they kept moving, the conversation hanging in the air between them. He pauses, getting this weird sense that something isn't right. Out of nowhere, Tina shows up wearing a helmet. She strikes a quick pose, clearly wanting to know what everyone thinks about her new look. She walked around for quite a while, but nothing seemed off. Everything looked normal, and she didn't notice anything that would make her nervous. The main character notices the danger up ahead before anyone else does. He tries to warn her, but he knows she probably won't see the threat until it's already right in front of her. She tries to brush it off, saying she didn't notice anything weird, so there's nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, motions for her to move in, still a bit cautious. The girl notices a bird's nest up in the branches and gets really excited, pointing it out. The boy, though, stops her from heading over to it. Out of nowhere, something big and dark sweeps through the sky above them, catching both of them off guard. Freezes for a second, his eyes wide. What he just saw doesn't really make sense to him. Before he can process it, a sound he knows well rings out nearby, snapping him back to reality. He notices the noise is actually coming from somewhere above him. Curious, he looks up, then decides to climb the nearest tree to check it out. While the main guy keeps climbing, Tina just stands there looking up at the sky. Climbs all the way up the tree, careful not to slip. Once he's at the top, he pulls out his binoculars and looks around, hoping to spot something interesting from up high. He lifts the binoculars and scans the distance, pretty sure the noise came from over there. Dong fiddles with the lens, trying to get a clearer view. When the image finally sharpens, his eyes go wide. He didn't expect to see something like this, definitely not what he was looking for, and it's enough to make his heart skip a beat. He spots a huge lizard-looking beast getting hammered by some dude. The warrior charges straight at the monster, aiming right for its mouth. He's fired up, his face showing how ticked off he is, ready to take the fight head on. The young man jams his weapon straight into the creature's mouth, pushing forward with everything he's got, hoping this will finally take it down. No matter how hard he tries, even with all the power he's got, the guy just can't take down the beast. The monster swallowed him whole and took off into the forest. He freezes for a second, staring at the mess in front of him. It hits him that this place isn't safe, there's trouble hiding around every corner. The hero suddenly knows he can't stay up there any longer. He glances around, heart pounding, and grabs onto the branches, moving quickly as he starts climbing down the tree. His mind wandered, not really paying attention to what was happening around her. While she was lost in thought, a snake quietly slithered up behind her, getting closer without her noticing. He notices something's wrong and doesn't hesitate. He leaps down, determined to help her. Lets her know the test isn't just about fighting huge monsters. There's a lot more to watch out for, and things can get pretty risky. She gives the main guy a quick nod of thanks, then glances down, curious about what he's got in his hand. He quickly tucks it away, brushing it off like it's no big deal. He goes quiet for a bit. He decides not to pay attention to it and thinks they should probably leave soon. Tina quickly tucks away the glowing sphere she just picked up, making sure no one sees it. Walks ahead and takes everyone to a wide open spot in the woods where the trees thin out. He points out that they can chill there for a bit and catch their breath. He lets the others know that being here is better than staying out in the woods. He felt scared and didn't want to go any further. Tina tries to let him know there's a huge monster nearby, but he just doesn't get it. He tries to figure out which monster she means, looking a little confused as he waits for her to explain. He pauses for a second and scans the area, taking everything in. He just rolled his eyes at her, acting like she was making stuff up. He didn't believe there was any monster around and figured she must imagine the whole thing. The guy laughs, not expecting her to get so jumpy, but the girl doesn't back down and stands her ground. He gestures for her to stop hanging back and come over to where he's standing. The waved Tina over, wanting her to take a break, but Tina got nervous and yelled out, worried that he might get hurt. Out of nowhere, the ground behind him bursts open, and this huge monster comes crawling out. The beast shows up and the main guy just stops in his tracks. He can't move or say anything, like he's stuck, trying to figure out what's even happening. The creature suddenly roared, loud enough to make everyone's heart race. The monster swung at, but he moved just in time, barely making it out of the way. Tina suddenly spots the monster and lets out a scream, her eyes wide with fear. The guy glances up, eyes scanning the room. The girl suddenly shouts, urging the hero to get out of there fast. The guy grabs his sword and rushes straight at the monster. He goes for it without holding back, wanting to prove he's got what it takes to be a real warrior. Calls himself a divine warrior and charges forward, ready to fight. He stands there, looking sure of himself as he gets ready to take the hit. He charges at the creature, putting everything he's got into the attack. All his energy is focused on taking it down, his body moving before he can even think. He grins, sure that he's finally beaten the monster. Charges forward, landing one last powerful hit on the beast. He puts everything he's got into it, not holding back at all. In that moment, the tension peaks as everyone waits to see if it's finally over. When his sword slammed into the creature's tough shell, it broke apart right away. He stared at his sword, not believing what he was seeing. The blade was snapped clean in half. For a second, he just stood there, frozen, trying to figure out how that even happened. This was the weapon he trusted most, and now it was useless. Stares down at his sword, now snapped in two. He can't believe it, his main weapon is useless. He grips the pieces, frustration building up inside him. All that training, and now he's left with nothing to fight back with. He feels stuck, almost helpless, as the reality of the situation hits him. While he's distracted, the monster sees its chance and strikes. The hit is strong, knocking him off his feet and sending him crashing backward through the air. Someone calls out the main character's name, their voice full of concern. Lay on the ground, beat up and staring at the sky. He couldn't help but think that maybe only some kind of god-level weapon could actually take down this monster. He spots a small cut on the creature right where his sword had hit. After seeing the monster actually get hurt, the hero starts to feel hopeful. If this thing can bleed, maybe it can be beaten after all. He doesn't let up and goes in for another attack as the beast comes charging at him again. The guy pulls open his backpack, his eyes locked in with purpose. He drops a pile of old, homemade weapons onto the ground. The guy steps up to the creature, ready to prove who's tougher. He's not backing down, and you can tell he wants to see if he can take it on. The tension is real as he gets ready to face off, showing he's not afraid to test his strength. He charges at the monster, putting all his strength into the attack. The blade snaps again. Doesn't freeze up, he uses that moment to push himself backward, putting some space between him and the action. He picks up another weapon, determination in his eyes. He's not backing down from this monster, not now. The creature lunged at him once more, hitting hard enough to knock him back. He managed to slip out of the way just in time. Isn't ready to give up. Even with the odds stacked against him, he just can't accept that he might lose. The thought of walking away without giving it everything bugs him, so he digs in, determined to prove he's got what it takes. The hero grabs another sword and goes for it again, not slowing down at all. He locks his eyes on the target, steady and determined, then throws another punch. The attack lands right where it should, slicing off one of the creature's tentacles. The crowd cheers as the main character nails his goal. Everyone around him is pumped, clapping and showing him some love for what he just pulled off. He can't help but smile, feeling proud and a little fired up. The moment is his and it feels legit. A thick tentacle from the monster slammed down just inches from her, making her jump back in fear. The chopped off piece of the beast kept squirming around on the ground. Tina scrunched up her face, clearly grossed out by what she just saw. Tina quickly kicks the tentacle aside, clearly grossed out. Not letting it bother her for long, she turns her attention back to cheering him on as he keeps battling hard. The main guy is giving it everything he's got. He's pushing himself, not backing down, just trying to make it work. Even when things get tough, he keeps going, not letting anything slow him down. Rushed forward, gripping his spear tight. He aimed carefully and struck the monster again, landing another hit. He spots a weak spot on the beast, and suddenly things don't seem so impossible. The weapons might not be the best, but the hero already knows what to do next. Realizes that if he just keeps hitting the same spot over and over, he'll come out on top. Tina grabs a bag of peanuts, rips it open, and starts snacking as she watches the fight unfold. The main guy is still pushing through. He's tired, but he keeps going, determined not to give up no matter how tough things get. Tina watched the protagonist and couldn't help but feel proud of him. She thought he was doing great, and it showed on her face. Twists through the air, building up speed before slamming down with a heavy attack. He's locked in, not planning to let this thing get away again. He's ready to end it, no matter what it takes. The creature reacts fast, blocking the hit from the main guy. Tina notices right away that he's been hit. Fear creeps in, making his heart race as he tries to figure out what just happened. She watches as the main guy goes flying through the air, her face tightening with concern for him. Sits up, still thinking about the creature from before. He remembers it's got some kind of protection that makes it tough to handle. That thought sticks with him as he tries to figure out what to do next. The monster gets ready to go after the protagonist, who's already down on the ground. Out of nowhere, Tina grabs the bag of chips and tosses it right at the creature, hoping it'll leave her alone. Tina stands her ground and stares down the monster, making it clear she wants it to back off and stop messing with the main character. The monster slowly turned to face her, its scary face sending chills down her spine. She shrinks back, terrified as the beast gets closer. Panic takes over and she desperately tries to call out for someone, hoping someone will hear her. He sees the monster getting closer to Tina and shouts for her to move, hoping she runs before it's too late. He takes off, sprinting as fast as he can to reach her. The beast charges straight at Tina. She stands completely still, unable to move, fear locking her in place. He sprints ahead, his eyes locked on the goal. No hesitation, just pure focus as he moves in front of her, ready to take on whatever comes next. He jumps in just as the monster attacks, putting himself between Tina and the danger. Right when it seemed like he was out of time, he landed a hit on the monster. Dong, out of breath, rests his weight on the monster. The creature's hide is tough, but all those careful hits finally paid off. He stood there, his sword jammed right in the creature's mouth. Even though he didn't have any special weapon or anything, he managed to take it down on his own. He hits the ground and doesn't move. It's clear he's not getting back up. The creature suddenly starts letting out some weird smoke. The boy slumped down next to Tina, totally worn out but with a small, proud grin on his face. He'd pushed himself hard, and even though he was tired, it was clear he'd pulled off something worth it. He grumbles to himself, annoyed that after fighting just one monster, all his weapons are already trash. He stared down at the busted weapons scattered on the dirt, his jaw clenched and fists tight. Nothing seemed to be going right, and seeing all that gear wrecked just made him more annoyed. It was the kind of moment that made a guy want to kick something, but he just stood there trying to figure out what to do next. Starts to get nervous. He knows that without a divine weapon, the test is going to be way tougher. Tina looked at him, and it was pretty clear she felt like she'd finally been proven right. He realized he should trusted her from the start. The whole thing hit him. He knew she'd been telling the truth all along, and now he could only wish he'd listened sooner. Wondered how she figured out there was a monster nearby. She just let him know she could smell it. The guy couldn't believe what he just heard. He was totally caught off guard, and in his head, he started thinking of her as some kind of legendary hound dog. Tina doesn't really get why she's being called that nickname, and meanwhile, the main guy notices something that catches him off guard. Out of nowhere, the ground rumbles under everyone's feet. Before anyone can react, a bunch of monsters show up, looking ready to cause trouble. The creatures start charging straight at them, fast and wild. The hero started wondering why Tina hadn't noticed the other sense before. He thought about it for a second, trying to figure out if maybe she'd missed something, or if there was a reason she just couldn't pick up on them. The question hung in his mind as he watched her, hoping she'd have an answer that made sense. They suddenly found themselves surrounded, and the girl started looking frustrated. She glanced at the main guy, clearly annoyed, as if expecting him to do something about their situation. A girl with gray hair shows up. The newcomer suddenly pulled out a weapon that looked straight up legendary, like something out of a video game. He made it clear with his actions that the others needed to get out of there and fast. Didn't see the girl coming at all. One second he was just standing there, and the next she showed up out of nowhere. He blinked, trying to figure out who she was and what she wanted, kind of caught off guard by how quickly everything changed. The warrior steps forward and swings her weapon at the monsters. She moves fast, not hesitating, as she takes them on one by one. Each hit counts, and the monsters try to fight back, but she's not backing down. You can almost feel the tension as she faces them head-on, focused on winning this fight. The creature stood there, head raised and facing them straight on. Her weapon bounces off the wall and flies right back to her. She grabs her weapon just in time. She grips the weapon tight in her hand. She gets into place, ready for what's coming next. She hits the creature again. She lets out a breath she didn't even realize she was holding. With the creature finally gone, some of the tension leaves her shoulders. The warrior steps over what's left of the monster, not even looking back. Tina points out how awesome the girl is, and the guy gets a little flustered, mumbling his thanks. He wonders who the girl is, but she just acts rude, not bothering to answer or even look at him. She turns away and ignores him, making it clear she doesn't want to be bothered. The girl turns around, spots him, and says his name. Looks at the girl and can't help but think there's something special about her, like she showed up right when he needed someone the most. Spots the girl and realizes she's the one who helped them out earlier. Tina notices how he's looking at her and starts to wonder if the two of them already know each other. He figures it's pretty obvious he knows who she is, since everyone at the academy talks about her being the top student. She's also the principal's granddaughter, which means everyone knows she's one of the best fighters at the school. At the same time, the gray-haired girl didn't expect him to know who she was. She thought she'd just blend in, so when he noticed her, it caught her off guard. She figured that if she'd realized it was actually him, she probably wouldn't have gone out of her way to help. Even though she's kind of rude, the guy still appreciates her help and makes sure to let her know. The student keeps his face blank, barely reacting. He just shrugs off any thanks, acting like it's no big deal. She just shrugs, says it was luck, and heads off like nothing happened. Just before she slips out of view, the girl shoots a quick look back and lets him know there's some trouble waiting further down the road. She tells him he should head back, since there's no way he can win without some kind of god-level weapon. The guy nods along, clearly thinking she has a point, but Tina's face tightens and it's obvious she's getting annoyed. The goddess suddenly takes by the hand and leads him quickly into the forest. She's determined to keep him safe and can sense her confidence as she moves ahead, not slowing down even for a second. From where he stood, the student stared at the fallen monster, barely able to process what just happened. He'd taken it down using nothing but a normal weapon, something he never thought possible. For a moment, everything around him felt unreal, like he was watching someone else's highlight reel. Even so, she still believes that if the hero doesn't have some kind of legendary weapon, he can't really do anything. Right then, other students showed up in the distance, scrambling to get away from a group of monsters. Some tried to fight back, but it was clear they were struggling. The whole scene was chaos, with everyone just trying to make it out in one piece. While all this is happening, one of the guys gets stuck with this weird, creepy tree going after him. He freaks out and starts yelling for help, hoping someone will notice what's going on. They're told that the point of this test is to make it to the tower. Only then can someone prove they're a real warrior. Out of nowhere, the main guy calls out the name of his special weapon. You can tell by his face that he's not calm. There's a hint of fear in his eyes, like he's bracing himself for whatever's coming next. He was just hanging out by the fire, cooking up a huge chunk of meat. The goddess, though, couldn't wait any longer and tried to snag some before it was even done. Tina stands up in front of everyone and starts talking about how much she loves food. To her, nothing beats a good meal, and she treats food like it's her closest friend. Right then, a tiny spark from the fire shot up and landed in her hair. Tina's hair suddenly bursts into flames, and she freaks out, waving her arms and trying to put it out. Meanwhile, Dong can't help but laugh, watching the whole thing go down like it's the funniest thing he's seen all day. The days dragged on, and the hero was getting tired of the same old routine. There hadn't been a single monster sighting, and it was starting to get on his nerves. Meanwhile, the girl just kept complaining, making things feel even more annoying. The meat was finally done, and the guy passed the huge chunk over to his friend, who looked like he hadn't eaten in days. When the goddess gets the food, her eyes brighten and she looks genuinely happy. From far away, someone kept an eye on. To them, it looked like wasn't even taking the test seriously, like he'd turned this whole life-or-death challenge into a casual hangout. Tina leans in close to him, getting all comfortable and relaxed. She doesn't hold back, just makes herself at home right by his side. He can feel how warm she is, and for a second his heart starts beating a little faster. It's the kind of moment that catches him off guard, but he's not complaining. 4 days had passed, and they'd only managed to take down one monster. The guy couldn't help but feel pretty annoyed by how slow things were going. The goddess seemed pretty into these risky challenges, as if she found them fun or something. But the hero couldn't help thinking that she was the one everyone should really watch out for. The main guy tries to figure out what kind of danger the girl means, but before he can get any answers, she suddenly just passes out and falls asleep right there. He brushes off his own question and just yawns, looking pretty worn out. Somewhere else on campus, the principal's granddaughter was standing her ground against a huge monster. Even though the thing towered over her, she didn't back down. She looked focused, moving fast and dodging its attacks, not letting fear slow her down. People nearby watched in awe, almost holding their breath as she kept the monster busy, determined not to let it win. She's wiped out and can't figure out why everything seems to be going wrong for her right now. The girl's exhausted, but she won't back down. She keeps pushing herself, even as more and more enemies show up. She can't help but wonder just how many of them there are, but quitting isn't an option. She starts to look tired. Her eyes get a little droopy, and it's pretty clear she's running low on energy. Out of nowhere, a new enemy shows up and she isn't ready for it. The creature moves quickly and swallows her in one bite. She's completely worn out, barely able to catch her breath after pushing herself so hard. She let her guard down for just a second, and that was all it took. Suddenly, she was gone, completely taken by whatever was out there. He slowly begins to slide in. She couldn't figure out why all these monsters kept coming after her nonstop. As the chaos went on, she slowly started to pull herself out from inside the monster. The young woman glanced around, and it slowly hit her that something about all of this just wasn't right. Things just got even tougher when more monsters started showing up. Right then, she starts to wonder if this is where it all ends for her in the survival test. Somewhere far off, someone was actually celebrating because everything had gone just the way they wanted. Meanwhile, on the edge of a cliff, a person made a sudden decision and jumped, leaving everything behind. The villain just grinned, looking pretty sure of himself. This time, he hinted that the people at the center of the test wouldn't be the usual ones. Something was about to change, and you could tell he was enjoying the idea. When the guy hit the water hard, it made a huge splash that grabbed his attention. They all turned to see what just happened, suddenly alert and watching the spot where he went under. One of the guys looked around, unsure if what they'd just done was okay. The leader just shook his head and let everyone know their last attempt didn't count for anything. The score was a big 0. Everyone could tell it wasn't their best moment. His partner starts to get nervous. The students' families are pretty important, and he's not sure what might happen if they find out. He's worried about the trouble they could get into if anyone catches on. The villain stays cool and tries to settle him down. He reminds him about all the good stuff they could score if their plan actually pulls through. The principal's daughter starts to sink under the water while the guy stands there, making it clear he's not messing around with anyone who tries to stop him. Somewhere else, the main guy jolts awake when he hears someone yelling. Dong sits by the campfire, glancing around and noticing that everyone else is gone. He starts to wonder where Tina disappeared to, feeling a little uneasy as he pokes at the fire with a stick. The quiet makes everything seem kind of weird, and he can't help but hope Tina turns up soon. Right then, he notices Tina's voice coming from somewhere inside the bushes. He looks puzzled, trying to figure out what's going on. Inside the thick bushes, the goddess kept calling him, trying to get his attention. The guy heads over to her, carrying her clothes in his hands. As he pushes the bushes aside, something white suddenly shoots out and smacks him right in the face. On the other side, Tina looks super embarrassed. She's doing everything she can to avoid being seen by him, practically wishing she could disappear. Suddenly notices something on his face, and to his embarrassment, figures out it's actually his teammate's underwear. Tina's face turned red, and she looked away, clearly embarrassed. She couldn't even make eye contact as she motioned for him to just let go of her underwear. The goddess steps into the river, the water swirling gently around her. She looks back at Dong, making it clear she wants him to join her. He hesitates for a second, caught off guard, but can't help being curious about what's going to happen next. Just stands there for a second, not really sure what to think after his partner suggests jumping into the river. He wasn't expecting that at all, and it kind of throws him off. For a moment, he's stuck, just trying to process what's going on. The hero glanced over, trying to get her attention. He wanted her to remember what was really going on. They were stuck in a serious test where messing up could have some rough consequences. Tina kept bugging him to jump in the water. She pointed out that it had been days since she'd last had a proper bath, and honestly, she wasn't wrong. The goddess suddenly leans back, looking totally relaxed and confident. She seems to really enjoy the water, acting like she's showing off just how good it feels. He spots someone just kind of hovering behind her, and wonders who that person might be. Dong's friend pointed out the girl who had been hanging around the wash area for a while. She always looked kind of annoyed, keeping to herself and barely glancing at anyone else. She panics as it hits her she's not coming up for air. She's actually sinking and the water's closing in around her. He doesn't even hesitate, just dives straight into the water to help the student, calling out that she's in real danger. The hero drags her out of the water and onto the sand. He quickly leans in to check if she's breathing, relieved to find out she's okay. He looks over at Tina, hoping she might know what to do next. Uncertainty flashes across his face as he wonders if she's ever learned CPR. The goddess turns away, deciding not to step in. She remembers how the girl treated her master before, just plain disrespectful. In her eyes, someone like that doesn't really deserve a rescue. Now Dong finds himself stuck. Everything's on his shoulders. If he messes up, the student's in real trouble. He looked over at the goddess, his face all business. He just wanted her to take care of drying the clothes since he was ready to deal with everything else on his own. The guy quickly kneels beside the girl and starts pressing down on her chest, trying to get her heart going again. He's focused, his hands moving fast, hoping she'll wake up. Every second feels heavy as he keeps going, not giving up. The young man stays focused, his eyes locked on the task in front of him. Every move is careful, like he doesn't want to mess anything up. You can tell he's putting all his energy into getting it right, not letting anything distract him. The student coughed hard, finally managing to get all the water out of her mouth. She blinks awake, looking around, trying to figure out where she is. Right then, the young woman notices the guy's face. She stares at him for a second, trying to figure out where she's seen him before. Her mind races as she digs through old memories, hoping something will click. Out of nowhere, the girl notices where she is and looks pretty grossed out. She stares at him, clearly grossed out, trying to figure out what he's even doing to her. Dong stood there with a bright grin, acting like saving someone's life was just another normal day for him. He casually mentioned that he was just doing CPR and shrugged off any thanks, as if it was no big deal. The student glares at him and suddenly throws out an accusation, calling him a pervert and saying he's just trying to take advantage of what's happening. Out of nowhere, she smacks him right across the face. He just stands there, totally confused, with no clue about what just happened. From where she stood, the goddess watched, not really sure why things got so heated. Nothing made sense to her about why anyone would react that way. Tina doesn't waste any time. She steps right into the chaos, determined to get things under control. She faces the girl and makes it clear she wants her to let go of her master, not backing down for a second. The student's legs give out from being so tired, and he drops right onto the hero, too worn out to stand anymore. The young woman is totally exhausted. She's so tired, just standing up on her own is almost impossible. Her legs look shaky, and it's clear she's struggling to keep herself upright. The main guy let Tina know she didn't need to worry about it. He could tell the other girl was just dealing with some stress and probably didn't mean anything by it. The group sat around the campfire just hanging out and watching the flames. The goddess was there too, but things got a little out of hand. Somehow she messed up and the students' clothes caught fire. Everyone scrambled trying to pat out the flames and save what they could, but most of their stuff ended up ruined. It was one of those moments that was embarrassing and kind of funny at the same time, but nobody really knew what to do next. Dongyi glances over at the young woman, curious about what actually happened to her. The student tries to explain, but she can't really recall what happened to her out in the forest. Her memory's pretty fuzzy and she seems unsure about the details. All night she remembered getting swarmed by endless dark monsters, one after another. There was never a moment to catch her breath. She kept pushing herself even though her body was already beat up and tired. Every move took everything she had, but she didn't stop until she just couldn't go on anymore. After that, all she could remember was her body giving out as she tumbled off the edge of the cliff. She was so tired, everything just faded away. When the girls started moving in, Tina quickly moved in front of him, blocking the way. She didn't want anyone getting too close to her master, so she made sure to keep some distance between them. The student looks around, confused about how a regular test turned into something risky for everyone. She's really scared about how strong the attacks are, and she can't help thinking that a lot of the other students might not survive. The main character, looking pretty worn out, admits she's too tired to keep fighting. She gestures for the other girl to come over and join the group like she's finally letting her in. The girl's eyes widen as she takes the help. She nods, clearly grateful, and you can tell she really means it. Somewhere far off, the villain looked over at his, checking to see if they'd actually done what he told them to do. The guys checked in with each other and it looked like everything went smoothly. Their plan worked out and nobody seemed to notice what they'd pulled off. The villain's partner nudged him, bringing up the promise of a huge reward if their plan worked out. The reminder made the risk a little easier to swallow, giving him something to focus on besides the nerves. The leader looks around and notices one of his guys is missing. He starts to wonder where he went since he was just there a moment ago, but now it's like the guy disappeared without a trace. The rest of the group picks up on it too, glancing at each other, realizing something's off. He tells everyone else to go back to camp while he sets off on his own to find the guy. The missing man finally showed up, keeping himself hidden as he watched everything go down from far away. At the same time, the villain caught up with one of his guys to check if everything had gone according to plan. The bald guy looks annoyed, clearly not happy about how long everything took. He glances around, wondering where the rest of the team disappeared to. The leader shrugs and says the others must just gotten lost somewhere along the way. Hearing how risky things were getting, the henchman started to freak out. He didn't want to be part of the plan anymore. Chasing after students just seemed way too risky for him now. He gives the vial back, letting everyone know he doesn't want the reward anymore and he's done with the whole scheme. The villain reaches out and grabs the vial, his face staying calm like nothing's wrong. The group leader pointed out that even if he decided to walk away, he wouldn't be off the hook. Half the responsibility would still end up on his shoulders. The bald guy starts to get worked up. He looks annoyed and turns the blame on his boss, clearly frustrated. It's obvious he didn't expect things to go wrong or for anyone to end up hurt. The villain stood there with a creepy grin, making it clear that as a partner, his only job was to stay quiet. The brown-haired guy looked over and made it clear that if the other dude really wanted to leave, he could just go and not come back. The villain looks around, making sure no one's watching, and quietly decides that his secret is safe. Without any warning, he suddenly drives a knife into the bald guy. The villain just stood there, not even trying to hide how cold he was about the whole thing. He clearly didn't believe in promises at all, and that's exactly why he thought his partner deserved what happened. To him, trust was pointless, and anyone who counted on it was just asking for trouble. The group leader found himself standing by himself, glancing around and realizing the rest of his team had disappeared. He tried to remember if they said where they were going, but nothing came to mind. The empty space around him felt weird, and he started to wonder if he missed something important or if the others were just messing with him. His friends started getting impatient, thinking they'd been waiting way too long. They figured it was smarter to just leave a message and head out instead of hanging around any longer. The bat flew straight toward the bald guy, drawn in by the scent all over him. With nowhere to hide, he stood there as the bat closed in, its attention locked on the pheromones covering his skin. They all moved closer to him, closing the space between them. The villain just grinned, clearly not bothered by what happened. He let everyone know he was done here and started heading toward the test tower, totally focused on whatever he had planned next. Back at the camp, the student couldn't shake off this weird, nervous vibe. Something just felt off, and he kept glancing around, half expecting something to happen. Tina holds out a piece of meat trying to share, but the young woman just looks at it and sighs. She doesn't seem too happy about it, reminding Tina that this is supposed to be a picnic, not a full-on barbecue. It's clear she was hoping for something a bit more chill. Dong quietly cooks the food over the fire, staying focused on what he's doing. He glances at the girl, letting her know everything's fine and they're safe for now. There's nothing around to worry about, so he keeps things chill, just making sure the meal gets done right. The goddess walks up to the student, smiling at him. She trusts what he said about things being safe and seems pretty relaxed, almost like she believes he's got it all handled. Before his friend could keep talking, he quickly reached over and covered her mouth. The hero just shrugged off Tina's attitude, telling the student not to worry about it. He figured Tina just got lucky on the test this time. The girl explains that he was once a great warrior, but ever since he got summoned, he's not the same. Something about that whole event changed him. Dong's face turns pale as soon as he hears what his classmates say. He freezes up, his eyes wide, and it's clear he's completely thrown off by their words. For a second, he just stands there, not sure what to do or how to react. She gestures toward the tent, letting him know he doesn't seem fired up about becoming a warrior anymore. He flinched at the sudden scolding, and the meat skewer slipped from his hand, landing on the ground. The main guy and his partner just stood there, not saying anything. They didn't really know what to do or how to react, so they just looked at each other, both kind of stunned by what just happened. The student looked at him, sizing up the situation. If she were in his shoes, she'd make a bold move and drop Tina, thinking that was the only way to prove himself as a real warrior. The goddess loses her temper when she sees what's happening. She's mad at the girl and starts yelling, annoyed that after saving her, the girl is just making things worse. The student just shrugs and says she's being honest, thinking there's no way the main guy could ever become some legendary warrior if Tina's involved. The goddess gets really mad and can't hold it in anymore. She jumps right into an argument with her, not backing down at all. Turn to Tina, curious about her comment on attracting bats. He tried to figure out what she really meant, his mind racing with all sorts of ideas. Maybe she had some weird trick, or maybe she was just messing with him. Either way, couldn't help but wonder what she was getting at. The goddess lets him know that there was something about the girl's clothes, some kind of scent that monsters couldn't resist. That was why they kept showing up, drawn in by whatever it was she was wearing. The divine weapon couldn't help showing off a little, making it clear she was the reason the group hadn't been caught yet. If she wasn't around, the enemies would found them for sure. The student realizes the smell probably came from the fight earlier and just shrugs it off, figuring that kind of thing is totally normal around here. The hero knows he can count on his partner, so he lets the girl know that the goddess can pick up on even the faintest sense. The young woman didn't really get it when she heard what they said about Tina's nose. The whole thing just left her puzzled, and she tried to figure out if they were being serious or just messing around. In her head, she kept running over what she just heard, trying to make sense of why Tina's nose was supposed to be such a big deal. Spuddy could tell right away that something was off. Whatever they were smelling, it wasn't normal. It hit way harder, almost like it was cranked up to a crazy level. After hearing this, the student's mind starts working overtime. Something from before comes back to him, a memory he hadn't paid much attention to until now. She remembers that day during the test. The hallway was packed, people everywhere, and out of nowhere, some guy accidentally ran into her. She remembers how a bald guy brushed past her, barely stopping before he just kept walking like nothing happened. Right after the bump, the girl noticed something weird on her clothes. She looked down, confused, trying to figure out what just happened. She looks down and spots something sticky on her skirt. She can't figure out what it is, so she just stares at it, a bit confused and annoyed. The girl glanced down at her hand, noticing some strange liquid stuck to her skin after brushing against her clothes. She frowned a little, not really sure what it was or how it got there. It was kind of gross, and she tried to wipe it off, hoping no one noticed. Right then, the girl's mind started racing as she tried to figure out who could have done that to her. She freezes, realizing for the first time that someone was messing with her right from the start of the test. It hits her all at once. She's been played, and everything starts to make sense. Her mind races, piecing together what just happened, and she can't shake off the uneasy feeling that things were never in her control. Glanced at the girl, trying to figure out if she recognized the guy causing trouble. The girl shook her head and looked pretty confused, making it clear she had no idea who he was or why he'd be after her. To her, the whole thing seemed random. She wasn't the type to have people out to get her. He thinks about it and realizes that getting jumped for no reason is way scarier and riskier. The student starts to get nervous, not really sure what the hero is trying to say. She looks at him, waiting for some kind of explanation. The main guy starts thinking that if she wasn't the only one at risk, then maybe other students could be in trouble too. The idea kind of hits him, making him realize things might be a lot bigger than he first thought. Somewhere else, a guy with purple hair just glared at his opponents, sizing them up with zero respect. He obviously thought they weren't worth his time. He's got this weird-looking weapon in his hand, and honestly, it kind of looks like a red hair dryer. He doesn't even pause. As the huge monster rushes at him, he lifts his weird-looking weapon and shoots straight at it. Just like that, the creature's gone, wiped out in an instant. 1 second it's there, the next it's nothing but dust. The side character watches the creature try to show off its strength, but he's honestly not impressed. He thinks the creature looks pretty weak, almost laughable, and wonders why anyone would even bother with it. He looks over at the group, thinking they're not even worth his time. In his mind, nobody here could actually stand up to his crew. Right after that, one of his friends jumps in and swings a weapon at the creature. It looks kind of like a chunk of iron shaped like a comb. One of the girls on his team steps up with her sword, which glows as she swings it, and she takes down the monster for good. The three of them got together, and the girl looked pretty annoyed. She wasn't impressed with how easy their battles had been so far. For her, taking on weak opponents just felt like a waste of time. Right after the fight ended, they spotted an ID card lying on the ground. It must have dropped during all the chaos, grabbing their attention as they tried to catch their breath. Suddenly, the ground rumbled hard beneath their feet, making everyone stop and look around. One of the guys glances around, trying to figure out what's going on. His partner suddenly gets this uneasy feeling, like something isn't right. For a second, he wonders if the ground is about to start shaking, maybe an earthquake or something. The ground starts shaking harder, and the rumbling sound moves in fast, getting louder with every second. She looks up and freezes, not expecting what's in front of her. Her eyes go wide, and it takes her a second to process what she's seeing. Out of nowhere, there's a massive explosion. The blast is so strong it knocks a bunch of students off their feet, sending them flying across the area. One of the students, wearing a helmet, gets hit and ends up coughing up blood. Suddenly, his body rises off the ground, catching the group off guard. The purple-haired guy freezes wide-eyed as what's left of a student whips by his face. His heart starts pounding, and for a second, everything else just fades out. The sight leaves him staring, stuck in place, trying to make sense of what just happened. Suddenly, something huge and weird starts rising up from the ground. It's got a bunch of long tentacles and these deep dark eyes that look around, making everything feel a little more intense. The leader's partner spots a bunch of dark bats and starts freaking out, clearly confused about why there are so many hanging around. It's obvious he wasn't expecting to see this crowd, and he looks pretty unsettled. The girl stands there totally lost and unsure what to do next. She glances over at her boss, hoping for some kind of answer or direction, her mind racing as she waits for a clue about what's supposed to happen now. Somewhere off in the distance, the villain keeps an eye on everything. In his mind, there's really just one thing left for them to do. The group leader notices a sudden light blasting up into the sky. His energy shifts fast, he starts moving, making it clear to the guys that it's time to get out of there. With barely a second to think, everyone picks up on his urgency and takes off, hearts racing as they try to put as much distance as possible between themselves and whatever's happening behind them. The villain gripped the vial tightly, clearly annoyed as he shot a glare at one of his. He couldn't believe their plan had flopped and that the hero managed to pull the girl out of the river. The henchman looked nervous, probably wishing he could disappear, while the villain's frustration just kept building. He gets mad and chucks the vial across the room. Deep down, he thinks his partner had it coming. The broken vial of pheromones lay on the ground, pieces of glass scattered everywhere. Out of nowhere, a strange voice announces that, because the students haven't been lucky, they're all headed straight for trouble. Back at the camp, the student couldn't sit still. He kept thinking they should get moving right away to help out. She watches him just standing there all calm, and it annoys her. She wonders if he's just scared to fight. The main guy just stays quiet, thinking about what she said. He can't shake off her calling him a coward, and it really gets to him. He's not sure what to do next, so he just sits there, lost in his own thoughts. She grabs hold of a stick, thinking back to all the things her grandpa taught her. He always told her that, as a divine warrior, she needed to be brave and stand up to evil no matter what. He's caught off guard by what he sees. At first, she seems totally normal to him, just another girl. But deep down, he can tell there's something off about her, something kind of wild underneath the surface. He starts wondering if maybe some ghost from her family is messing with her. The girl really wants to head out right away, but isn't so sure. He figures it's smarter to slow down and come up with a solid plan first, rather than just rushing into things. The student just stands there, not sure what to say or do after seeing how the protagonist acts. The guy reminds her to think things through and focus on getting better before anything else. The young woman just couldn't ignore someone in need. Even though she was a warrior and had seen a lot, she still believed it was her job to help people. No matter how tough things got, she wasn't the type to turn her back on others. She realizes they don't see things the same way and decides they shouldn't stick together anymore. The student throws an insult at calling him a coward, then turns around and heads off on his own, ready to take on the fight solo. The student takes one last look around, her face set with determination. She grabs her stuff, gives a quick wave, and heads out of the camp, not planning to come back. The guy stands there watching as the girl heads off. He can't help but think about what's on her mind, trying to guess what she might be feeling as she disappears into the crowd. Tina tries to calm him down, letting him know that she's struggling to even stand up right now. She figures the bats will probably catch up to her soon anyway, so there's not much to stress about. He couldn't figure out what the goddess meant when she mentioned dark bats. The words just left him puzzled, and he kept replaying them in his head, trying to make sense of it. He stood there by himself, unsure of what to do next. Even though he didn't have everything figured out, he decided it was still worth trying instead of just standing around doing nothing. She suddenly freezes, her mind racing as she tries to figure out what the villains are really after. Out of nowhere, a strange creature with glowing red eyes steps out from the darkness, catching her off guard. The girl freezes up, her eyes wide as she spots something flapping in the darkness. Panic hits her and she yells out, pointing at what she thinks is a bat flying around. She starts to panic, but before she can make a sound, someone's hand claps over her mouth, stopping her from yelling. The student didn't expect it, but she soon figures out that was the one who helped her. He signals for the girl to keep quiet while they both crouch behind a tree, staying low and trying not to make a sound. He lets her know he's got a way to track down the others, but for his plan to work, she has to stay quiet. The giant creature glances around, checking the area with careful eyes. Meanwhile, the hero keeps the girl close, not letting his guard down. After some time, the monster moves on and both of them start to relax again. It's like the tension in the air just melts away and they can finally catch their breath. The student takes a deep breath, trying to calm down after the scare. The student gets irritated, wondering why he is on her trail. She's suspicious, trying to figure out if he's planning to get her in trouble. The hero let everyone know that following the dark bats would lead them straight to where the other students were. The girl doesn't really buy it. She looks at the plan and just can't see how following those monsters would ever work. It all sounds way too far-fetched to her. The main character knows that if he wants to help someone, he's got to give it everything he's got. He understands that sometimes you have to try all kinds of things, even if it's risky or a little out of his comfort zone. He's not the type to hold back or just hope things work out. He's ready to do whatever it takes. Dong Yu managed to win her over at last, reaching out his hand to make their agreement official. He tells her he could use some help figuring out who actually came up with this whole plan. The three of them set off together, making their way through the trees. The forest was pretty quiet except for the sound of their footsteps and the occasional bird. They kept a steady pace, looking around as they went, each guy thinking about what might come next. The student still doesn't trust what's going on. He keeps thinking about whether it's actually possible to find the other students or if it's just wishful thinking. Doubt sticks with him, making it hard to focus on anything else. She starts grumbling about how long they've been walking without finding anything, wondering out loud what the point of all this even is. Glanced over at the student and Tina did the same. The guy let the young woman know she should hang tight, while Tina tried to figure out where most of the bats were hanging out. He jokes around, pointing out how sharp the goddess's sense of smell is, and figures the girl should know that already. He adds that he wouldn't mess up like that himself. Admits they don't really have a backup plan right now, but maybe something will come up. Out of nowhere, the divine weapon cut him off, letting him know she picked up on something about 500 meters ahead. She goes on mentioning that, along with the monsters, she notices the same scent that was on the student's clothes earlier. He starts to connect the dots and sees that everything is finally adding up. Turns out his plan was solid from the beginning. The student just stands there, not sure what to think or do. His mind goes blank, and for a second he forgets where he is. Everything around him seems to pause as he tries to process what just happened. The young woman wonders if 500 meters could really be right, but the goddess just starts counting down the distance anyway. The boys moved in step by step while the countdown on the screen kept ticking down. One of the students couldn't help but doubt everything. He really didn't believe any of this was real. Out of nowhere, a loud noise blasted through the forest. The divine weapon made it clear they were here now. Out of nowhere, a weird red creature steps out from between the trees. Everyone freezes for a second when they spot what's flying overhead. It's a dark bat. The second they figure it out, people start backing away, some already turning to run. A guy with purple hair showed up out of nowhere and went straight for the monster, hitting it hard with a spinning punch. The attack lands right where it was aimed, blasting up a thick cloud of dust and leaving a clear mark on the ground. The fighter spins around and spots Dong standing there with the student. He clearly didn't expect to see them so close. The guy wants to know why the hero showed up, but before he can get an answer, one of his friends points out that more monsters are on the way. A bunch of students sprinted down the hallway, trying to get away from the creatures chasing after them. Their faces were pale, footsteps echoing as they dodged around fallen books and backpacks, just hoping to make it out. Some shoved past each other without looking back, all focused on finding some way to get to safety. The guy and the young woman spot Chile's crew up ahead, and right away, they notice how many people are with her. It's way more than they expected, and it definitely catches them off guard. The main guy started grumbling to the goddess in his head, annoyed she didn't give him a heads up about all the creepy bats hanging around. He really wished she'd warned him so he could have been ready instead of getting caught off guard. The divine weapon just keeps running, staying calm like nothing happened. He doesn't seem bothered or or interested in answering, just focused on moving forward. The goddess points out that every student's clothes carry the same odd smell, and his friends walk over to where the others are hanging out. The leader notices the girl standing with and seems confused, probably wondering what she's doing there with them. There was no time for questions. The hero quickly told everyone to start taking off their clothes right away, making it clear something serious was about to happen. Everyone hesitated for a second, confused by the sudden order, but the urgency in his voice pushed them to act fast. The guy with purple hair starts to wonder if he's actually losing it, but the main character just stands firm, saying it's all about survival. The student steps up, looking straight at the leader. He wants the leader to believe in and promises that she'll clear things up soon. The group leader doesn't really trust the request, but it looks like he can't do much about it. He hesitates for a moment, then just goes along with what he's been asked, knowing there isn't a better option right now. The student looks serious and makes it clear they have to move fast. There's no chance to sit around and talk things through, they just have to get going right away. Everyone starts yanking off their clothes as they rush through the forest, stumbling over roots and dodging branches. It's awkward and kind of hilarious, but nobody cares. They're too busy trying to keep up and not trip as shirts and jackets get tossed aside. One of the girls starts grumbling about her clothes, annoyed that they're from the latest drop, but the leader doesn't care at all. He just brushes her off and throws a few insults at the main guy, not even bothering to look her way. The purple-haired guy stared at, making it clear he wasn't messing around. He looked serious, almost like he was warning that if he was just playing games, things wouldn't end well for him. Just as he's about to keep going, one of his buddies suddenly steps in and points out something weird going on with the clothes. Nobody expected what happened next. The dark bats didn't go after the students at all. Instead, they swarmed straight for the clothes, ripping and tearing at the fabric with their sharp little teeth. The students just stood there, confused, watching their uniforms get shredded while the bats paid no attention to them. The creatures couldn't take their eyes off the clothes. They just kept moving, drawn by the smell, not bothered by anything happening around them. One of the guys looked around, confused about why the monsters kept going after their clothes instead of attacking them directly. From far away, anyone could spot the dark bats all huddled together, totally caught up in whatever had their attention. Somewhere far from danger, the main guy and the student finally felt safe enough to relax. The tension in their shoulders eased up, and for the first time in a while, they could just catch their breath. The young woman glanced at Dong, her eyes serious and honest. She turned his way and let him know she appreciated how he'd stepped in and helped everyone out. You could tell she really meant it. Her expression said it all. Right now, the hero thinks they've managed to slip away, but he knows this place is still trouble. He's on edge, scanning every corner, and just wants to get out before things get worse. While the group took a break, their leader kept an eye on the area. He saw that the monsters were still hanging around nearby and hadn't moved on yet. One of the guys checks out the new members and can't help but think they're just more people to keep an eye on, probably not going to be much help. The student talks about how she's in charge of her group, and the rest of the people with her are the best students in class. At this point, the main guy realizes that if he gets knocked out, someone else will just take the win without much trouble. At the top of a tall mountain, the prize for winning the test waits. Just looking at it, anyone can tell it's something big, like the spot everyone wants to reach. It's clear this is what everyone's aiming for. The girl looked over at the fight, clearly annoyed. She didn't think it was right to use monsters just to get a win. In her mind, a real warrior, especially one who followed the goddess, should play fair and rely on their own skills. She didn't believe that using monsters counted as true strength. Somewhere off in the distance, the divine weapon just couldn't stand all the chatter anymore. It was really getting under her skin. Tina looked like she didn't really get why any of this mattered, but the main guy wasn't about to just let it go. He knew they couldn't turn their backs on the problem, not when it was right in front of them. The goddess turned away, not interested in hearing about anyone except her favorite master. It was clear she only cared about him, blocking out everyone else like they didn't matter. At the same time, the student tries to explain everything to the other group, but no matter how hard he tries, the others just can't wrap their heads around the idea that someone might actually be behind the monsters. They brush it off, thinking it sounds too wild to be true. She mentioned she'd been in the same situation before, started thinking there might be something bigger going on behind the scenes. One of the guys rolls his eyes, clearly not buying it, but another guy seems to actually consider what was said, thinking it might add up. The group leader freezes for a second, caught off guard by what he just found out. His mind starts racing, running through what this could mean and what might happen next. He gets fired up, demanding to know why things turned out this way. One of his teammates explains that it's all about winning the competition. The student nods, letting everyone know that she and the main guy both figured out the same thing. Out of nowhere, one of the guys switched things up and wanted to know why even bothered to help them all in the first place. He starts thinking that maybe the guy just wants to hang out with them for some kind of benefit. Tina's face turns red and she looks like she's about to explode. She's clearly annoyed at him and doesn't hold back, letting him know just how mad she is. The goddess points out that it was actually the hero who ended up saving everyone, not the other way around. She keeps talking, pointing out how he never says thanks and only ever grumbles, acting like he doesn't appreciate anything she does. The guy gets up and starts making fun of her, calling her useless divine weapon. He started pulling together some blue energy in his hand, looking at her like she wasn't even human. Partner didn't say anything and just kept looking at him. The bald guy gets ready to attack, looking like he's had enough of her attitude. He's clearly annoyed, wanting to put her in her place so she won't act so full of herself around him anymore. Everyone just kind of freezes when they see what's happening. It hits them all at once that this guy is actually about to call out his divine weapon. He pulls out his weapon and makes sure everyone sees it's the real deal, not some cheap knockoff like hers. The student wonders if the goddess has what it takes to fight or maybe just keep her master safe when things get rough. He keeps going, making it clear he thinks trash should stick with trash. In his opinion, because of her, the main guy will never amount to anything. He was making fun of Tina, right when she's on the edge and looks ready to snap back. The bald guy found the whole thing funny. He couldn't help but laugh, clearly entertained by how much she reacted. The guy quietly reaches out, grabs Tina's hand and gently pulls her back beside him. With the goddess holding onto his arm, the hero steps in and lands a strong punch right on the bald guy. He doesn't hold back, making it clear he wants the guy to stop talking. The punch landed hard, sending the bald guy flying backwards. He yelled out, clutching himself in pain as he hit the ground. The rest of the group rushed over, sneakers slapping against the ground. Their leader, who always seemed to take charge, locked eyes on, clearly not happy with whatever stunt he was pulling. Everyone could tell she wanted answers and fast. She's seriously mad, trying to figure out why he just went after someone on his own team. The hero's face turns serious as he gets ready to lay out the reason he lost his cool. Figured the guy had it coming. In his eyes, if someone couldn't watch what they said, then it was fair game to step in and show them how things work. The goddess's face goes bright red. She didn't expect her master to stand up for her like that, especially with everyone watching. To him, Tina isn't just something to own or show off. He sees her as his partner, someone real who matters to him. At the same time, the student goes over to help the guy who started the whole thing, but the dude is still out of it, barely able to sit up straight. The purple-haired guy looked at him and pointed out how he definitely wasn't some kind of saint. Honestly, he thought the punch was totally deserved. The bald guy glared at, his anger obvious. He looked like he was ready to do something bad, making it clear he wasn't going to let this go. The way he stood there, you could tell he wanted to pay for embarrassing him. The hero holds back, deciding that payback can wait. For now, he knows there's something more important he needs to handle. He points out that everyone should probably pay attention to the new people showing up, since nobody saw them coming. Raised his arm and pointed out toward the horizon. The others looked where he gestured, but none of them had any clue what was going on or who these people were supposed to be. They just stood there, unsure about what was coming their way. The guy suddenly lost his temper and pushed the girl who was trying to help him. He clearly wanted her to back off and leave him alone right away. The bald guy spots even more bats coming his way. The horde shows up and right away, someone yells out that they're all headed their way. The bald guy stands there totally stiff, eyes wide as he spots all the monsters coming his way. He can't move, just stuck in place like his brain is trying to catch up with what he's seeing. The main guy thinks to himself that they probably owe some thanks to that one loudmouth who made a scene. Right then, the bald guy's crew freezes. It hits them that everything happening is actually because of him. The guy drops to his knees as his teammates start throwing harsh words at him, making it clear they think he's not good enough. He just sits there, taking it all in, sinking deeper with every insult. It's obvious he feels small, stuck in the moment, wishing he could just get up and walk away. The girl suddenly grabs the bald guy by his shirt, her face tense and frustrated. She's had enough and doesn't want to get pulled into whatever mess he's in. The bald guy looks stressed, trying to explain himself, making it clear he didn't mean for any of this to happen. Tension hangs in the air as everyone watches, waiting to see what will happen next. The purple-haired guy just stands there, totally crushed. He looks at the mess in front of him and it hits him they're in real trouble now. He suddenly gets sweaty and starts freaking out, scared that something bad might happen before he ever gets to experience his first kiss. One of the masked guys looked around at everyone, clearly knowing they were kind of stuck. Nobody really had an answer or a plan, and the energy in the group felt low. It was obvious they all realized there wasn't much they could pull off right now. The group leader looks at everyone and admits that he's just too tired to do anything. He doesn't even want to think about fighting or running right now. The hero stands there looking pretty sure of himself. It's like he knows something everyone else doesn't. Even with the problem hanging over their heads, he isn't fazed. There's this calm look on his face, almost like he's telling everyone to chill. Deep down, he's got a plan, and he's ready to show everyone that all hope isn't lost yet. Everyone looks over at, waiting to see what wild plan he'll come up with to get them out of this mess. He's been keeping an eye on how fast those dark bats move for some time now. He let everyone know the creatures weren't close yet, and it would be a while before they showed up. Walked up to the edge, checking out the drop below. He had an idea. If someone went down there and got the monster's attention, it might actually work. With that move, the rest of the group could slip away, while the bait kept the flying monsters busy. He looks around at the group, clearly trying to get under their skin. He wants to see who's actually brave enough to step up and take on the mission, almost daring the toughest guys to prove themselves. The purple-haired guy and his friends go quiet. None of them look like they're ready to risk themselves. The bald guy looked pretty ticked off. He glared at the entrance and seemed sure that if anyone went down there, they wouldn't make it out alive. Out of nowhere, the student stops and takes a deep breath. Her face changes, showing she's made up her mind about something big. The girl reaches out her hand, and this strange glow begins to gather in her palm. The young woman steps forward, looking serious. She decides she'll be the one to put herself on the line so everyone else can get out safely. She focuses hard, trying to call out her divine weapon, but nothing's working. Something's definitely off, and it's starting to mess with her confidence. The summoning doesn't work, and the student drops to her knees. She's totally wiped out, barely able to move, just trying to catch her breath. The hero walks over to the girl and lets her know the plan isn't going to work for her. He's honest about it, not wanting her to to waste time on something that's probably too tough right now. Dong lets everyone know that right now, there's really no point in trying anything. She looks at her situation and just knows it won't work out no matter what she does. The young woman stood her ground, letting them know she'd handle things on her own for as long as possible. She wanted the others to hurry up and get out of there while she kept watch. The main guy stands off to the side, watching everything play out. His mind is somewhere else, barely noticing what's going on around him. He's deep in his own thoughts, just taking it all in without saying a word. He looks over at the goddess, clearly thinking the girl doesn't have a clue what she's doing. Still, he steps up and decides to take her spot himself. The divine weapon stared at her master, totally confused. She hadn't caught what he said and was honestly thrown off, not getting it at all. Nobody saw it coming when the hero decided to put himself on the line for everyone else. For a second, the whole group froze. Even the ones who never showed much emotion couldn't hide how stunned they were. The room felt heavy, like everyone was trying to process what just happened. The student just looked at, eyes wide, trying to process what she just heard. She couldn't really believe it, and it took her a second to figure out if she'd heard it right. Somewhere else, a teacher lets the principal know that way more students got hurt during the test than anyone expected. The principal hears the news and gets really angry. He can't figure out how something like this happened out of nowhere. The assistant looked over, waiting for instructions. The old man didn't waste any time. He knew they had to move fast, so he jumped right into action. The principal heads down the hallway and steps into a quiet room. Inside, he spots two guys he doesn't recognize, and something about them seems off. One of the guys notices something off about the test. He points out how the number of monsters getting taken out is way higher than anyone expected, and it's starting to seem like things aren't going as planned. The old man wanted to know what was happening, so the man explained that the church needed to figure things out. He lets them know the dark bats are way more restless than anyone thought they'd be. The other guy pulls out a map and points out to the principal that his granddaughter is part of the test too. The principal freezes for a second, his eyes going wide as it suddenly hits him. This student might actually be in real trouble. Back on the cliff, the young woman nods at the guy, showing she appreciates that he tried to help out. She just lets him know that it's all on her. Whatever's going on, she makes it clear he's not involved, and she takes the blame herself. He just stands there quiet, keeping his eyes on her. The student nodded at him, showing she really appreciated how he'd looked out for her lately. She seemed grateful for all the help and support he'd given her over the past few days. The hero tries to get the girl to stay put, but the bald guy isn't convinced. He doubts the hero even has what it takes to draw the monster's attention. Dong's patience started wearing thin as the jokes kept coming. He shot them a glare, clearly annoyed by their teasing, and challenged them to try it themselves if they really thought it was that simple. The main guy looks focused as he gets ready to pull off his risky plan. He knows it could go wrong, but he's set on making it happen. He tells the group that once he's gone, they need to get out of there with Tina, but the goddess stands her ground and won't leave. The purple-haired guy just freezes when he hears the request. He's totally caught off guard and has no clue what the other person is talking about. One of the girls looked at him, her eyes showing she was worried. She wanted to know if he was really sure about going, since there was a chance he wouldn't make it back. He hopes they'll look after her, but the divine weapon still won't leave his side. The goddess starts to panic. She really doesn't want to go, and it shows. She looks around, wondering out loud why anyone should even care about the rest of them. It's obvious she wants to stay, clinging to any reason to avoid leaving. The student just stayed quiet. Dong takes a step back, giving the young woman another look. He wants to be sure his partner will be all right, so he asks her again to look after him. The main guy stares them down, not backing off. He really wants them to keep their promise, and you can see he's not going to let this slide. He steps right up to the edge of the cliff, not even pausing for a second. Down below, a swarm of dark bats huddled together, watching and waiting for something or someone to come close. At the same time, the student keeps a tight grip on the divine weapon. She's upset, tears streaming down her face as she clings to her master, clearly not wanting him to go. The guy doesn't hesitate, he just leaps straight off the edge of the cliff. As he drops, he shouts out, calling all the monsters to chase after him. Drops right into the center of the monsters, hitting the ground so hard that dust flies everywhere. He doesn't waste any time, already getting himself set for whatever comes next. He stands there calm and sure of himself, staring down the swarm of dark bats. There's no hesitation in his eyes, he's ready for whatever comes next. He takes off into the forest, running hard and trying to get all the creatures to follow him. Up on the cliff, the goddess fights to break free, wanting nothing more than to go find her master. The student hangs on, doing whatever he can to keep Tina from losing it, even though things are getting tense. For a second, she manages to settle herself. The purple-haired guy, usually hanging out in the background, tries to calm everyone down. He points out that once he's out of the picture, the divine weapon will vanish too, so there's really nothing for the others to stress over. Tina sat there, tears streaming down her face, her mind stuck on the thought that her master was really leaving. She couldn't stop herself from quietly saying it over again, trying to make sense of what was happening. The whole thing just hit her hard and she felt completely lost. The student's face tightens, his patience running out. He throws a glare at the guy, clearly annoyed, and tells him off, not holding back his frustration. When a warrior dies, their special weapon goes with them. It doesn't stick around or get passed down, it just vanishes like it was never there in the first place. The purple-haired guy stands his ground, confident in what he just said. Across from him, the student looks like he's struggling to believe it, almost like he's hoping it's not true. Tears started to roll down her cheeks as the divine weapon realized her master wasn't allowed to go anywhere. She couldn't hide how upset she was, and it was clear she wasn't ready to let him leave. The goddess quietly muttered his name under her breath. The student noticed this and couldn't help but get a little confused, trying to figure out what was going on. Out of nowhere, golden energy bursts out, and right then, his partner's hair starts changing. The light bursts out way too bright for anyone to look at. Everyone squints or covers their faces, caught off guard by how intense it is. She stares at it, trying to figure out where all this energy is coming from. It's a lot to take in, and she can't help but be curious about what's really going on. She stands frozen, eyes wide, trying to process what's right in front of her. Everything else fades out for a second as her mind scrambles to catch up. Whatever she's looking at, it's nothing she expected. The light slowly faded away, leaving the group standing there without any sign of the goddess. The student glanced around, still trying to figure out what just happened and what the goddess really was.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Web2 Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.